Lacie, you and I had about half a good podcast conversation before we ever hit record.
No kidding.
And most of which I'm excited to honestly dive right back
It's like,
into.
actually, can you just repeat everything you just said?
Yeah, I'm like, can we just rewind a little bit? Let's just go back to that conversation. But first, I do want to say thank you so much for, I know you said it wasn't a big deal, but I really, really do appreciate you making the drive to come up here to do this in person. We were going to do it remotely. We were back and forth a little bit, but the fact that you were down to be like, no, let me come to the studio.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
record
honestly,
this.
I was like, this is going to be way easier. And again, anything, like I'll drive 13 hours instead of flying because that's just a day journey. So I was like, yeah, no, I was able to get Wingstop for lunch, which I love, and I don't have one near me.
Amazing.
So, got to get that. And then I stopped at Barnes & Nobles.
Perfect.
So I was like, I was living.
So
I just left early. Yeah,
good.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, yes, I'm very, very stoked we're actually getting to sit down in person for this. Because this is one of those episodes where we are meeting for the very first time.
Yes.
I know generally what you do. You worked with Josh and my video crew for some stuff. So I know generally what you're all about. But like so much of just what I've heard and I've seen, I'm like, I just cannot wait to take the deep dive into kind of everything.
Got it.
So before we dive back into the conversation that we were having about social media and the way that people are and all this weird stuff, lay out for me kind of like what's the
my elevator pitch
of Lacie? Like what all do you do? What all are you involved in?
Okay, so I always say I'm a professional idiot online because I do make content for a living, content creator, influencer, whatever you want to call me. It doesn't bother me. I started doing that in March of 2020, so I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary. Okay. And I had a very similar story to I think a lot of people where I had posted a video right before the shutdown of the pandemic. And it was just a silly video, put no effort into, thought nobody would really get it because it was geared towards more of the rancher side, like with people with animals, livestock, because I just had my big white cow Snow and I was like, hey girl, you're going to have this calf in the barn, right? And I made her shake her head like she was agreeing to all my terms. And I didn't think anything of it, but people saw a really pretty white cow that was pregnant and they got invested. And I don't know if you remember the April the Giraffe, like 2016 gate, essentially. There was this pregnant giraffe, and she like went viral, and so then everybody was invested in her pregnancy.
Okay.
That was very similar to what happened to me in 2020 with Snow.
Gotcha.
And unironically, like I didn't mean to do it because I had no idea that video would do well. I ended up helping my career in that way because I was building so much suspense unintentionally. Everyone just wanted an update every day. I did not go into it thinking, oh my God, this is going to build me a platform, blah, blah, blah. Like I was kind of just running with it as it happened. And so I continued to do social media. I expanded onto other platforms, and I've been doing that. I've also been able to do a lot of really cool projects that have like come to fruition very recently. I just clocked in my first couple stand-up shows, and I have another one coming up in March. I also wrote a book, and that will be published this fall. And then I am launching my new brand that will be here in March as well.
Well, you just gave me a great list of things that I want to dig into because I am interested in all of those things. Something like what were you doing at the time in 2020 before? Like, had you been actively creating or anything before then, or was it like I made a funny video and then that opened the door to a whole new world?
So I always loved social media and like creating content. I feel like I went to a very rural small town, and I just feel like I was one of the only kids that liked watching YouTube and liked watching influencers. Obviously, I probably wasn't the only one, but I just never like I'd be like, oh, did you guys see this Jenna Marbles video? And they would just be like, what? And I'm like, okay, you're not my people, whatever. So for the most part, I just kind of felt isolated, and I also just always had that fear of like wanting to post but being scared. I actually, when I was like a sophomore in high school and Vine was big, I made a bunch of Vines one summer, and then before I went to school I deleted them all because I was scared people were going to make fun of me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went to college because my whole life I thought I was going to be a large animal vet. I always love being around cattle. I'm very lucky to have the type of brain that's wired to do schoolwork, and so I was always a pretty good student. And so I went to a local private college to where I could commute and get 2 degrees. I got a degree in agriculture, like animal science, and then I also got a degree in chemistry because I was going to take those double majors, and that would really help me get into vet school. And right as I graduated college, my grandmother got really sick. She had her third, I think, stroke, and so instead of, I had a job lined up at a veterinary office because I was going to take a year off regardless because my grandma was declining and I didn't want to be away at school or trying to get it because I knew vet school or whatever route I took was going to be taxing and very time consuming. And so I quit that job. I started taking care of my grandma full time until she passed away. And then I kind of had like a like a crisis of like an identity crisis almost, because my whole life I had been a student and I had done really well. And now I was faced with this. I have these degrees. I don't know what to do with them. I also don't know what I want to do. And I'm depressed because I just lost my best friend. So I had a bunch of random odd jobs. And then I got like a factory job, but I was in the office, but it was awful. I hated it so much. So I saved up enough money at that job because it was a decent paying job for the time. Mm-hmm. And then I quit and just took like 3 months to like, I don't know, do some self-exploring, I guess you could say, and I created on YouTube. But again, I was terrified of judgment from my small town people and everything, so I kind of just gave up that when I got other jobs. I worked at a feed store, and then when I went viral for the first time, I was at a bank. Nothing crazy. Okay. I worked at a bank.
Yeah. Can we stick in that time frame for a second? Because whenever, whether I'm having a conversation on this show mm-hmm. or I'm listening to conversations like this on other podcasts, I'm always fascinated and want to hear a deeper dive on the kind of unflashy moments mm-hmm. of the story, right? Because it's always easy to be like, oh yeah, then, we started creating this, or I made this business, and then, yeah, it's been hard, but this is what I've been doing. And I'm always like, I want to hear about all those things, but also what was that time frame like? Mm-hmm. And I'm asking you this of like, when you're kind of in that like right before the self-discovery mode, or, mm-hmm. or you're just kind of, you've got these jobs and yes, you're saving money, but you can acknowledge that like this isn't necessarily something I want to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a little bit of a depressive state. And like, what is life like for you during that time, or what's going through your mind on a day to day? Is it kind of just, I was in that kind of just zoned out moment of time where I was just kind of trying to get through, or is it like something that's like scratching at the back of your brain every day of like, mm-hmm. how can I get to where I want to be? Like, take me back to that time frame.
I always tell people that those moments where you feel like your life is ending is probably the most crucial time that you need to just like try to keep pushing, because those moments in my life have been where I've ended up flourishing the most. I've had like really 2 of those pinnacle moments that I can think of, because one of them was that when my grandma passed away and I was in that weird, I feel like it was almost like an autopilot, because I didn't really know what I was doing and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of just like I said, just floating along, trying to figure out. And at that point, it was just a job to make me money to pay my bills. It wasn't anything that was a passion project, I guess you could say. And so when I downloaded TikTok, it was in 2019, a whole year before. And it was because my best friend and I would watch TikTok cringe compilations, because it was right at that change when it went from Musical.ly to TikTok. So it was still kind of like weird. Like people were only doing the like lip syncing sounds and stuff. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the videos that they are today. And we both would watch them on YouTube, the cringe compilations. We're like, we got to see this firsthand. We got to see what's going on. So we both downloaded it, and I would scroll. And then we both just kind of had this thought of like, let's just post, like shit post essentially. All this stuff, like we had random Snapchat stories we had saved where we both were just being stupid. And so I started posting some, and a few of them did like not like, I didn't do anything crazy. And my username at first was I think I'm funny with like a few Y's, because I didn't think animals would be ever a part of my brand, because I was so scared of like PETA, animal activist, all that. And then I was like, I'll just post this video of snow. It's just silly, stupid, whatever. Yeah. And honestly, my brother-in-law is a big reason, because before I would post the stuff on TikTok now, like that content, I would do similar stuff on my Snapchat story. That's like where it was my like safe space, I guess you could say, where I could just be goofy. And my brother-in-law had me on Snapchat, and he would tell me, like my sister would FaceTime me, and Justin would be like, you're funny. Like you need to post this somewhere. He's like, I could see one of these going viral. Like you need to just post these. And I had somebody in college say that same thing to me one time, because every day when I'd get to that class, I'd sit in front of him with my friend and we'd talk, and I would just tell stories like I do, very animated. And he just like one day randomly spoke up, because we didn't talk that much in that class. So he was just like, if you had a YouTube channel, I'd watch it. And I remember like just like hearing those comments, but like never like fully taking them to heart. And so then, yeah, when the video went viral on TikTok, it kind of was a little bit of a light bulb of like, I can create like I've always wanted to, and see where this can take me, because I always wanted to entertain people. I always had a very eccentric and animated personality. And I got to kind of wrap that in with also educating people about animals and advocating. Like it was just so weird that the perfect career path for me was birthed when I thought my world was ending.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what that identifier was for you? Was it just the proof of like making a video and seeing any sort of reaction from it? Or was it like almost the permission of someone else, like kind of granting you like this internal permission that you didn't know you needed or something? Or like, do you remember what that switch moment was where you were like, wait, like I'm identifying a door is opening? And I'm asking that because I think a lot of people in those moments that we're talking about, it's kind of almost easy to overlook the opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
To change, to evolve, to try something new. And ultimately because it is scary. You know, and you've mentioned a few times that like you weren't totally, I'll use the phrase, out of your shell because there was that worry of ridiculement of what do people from my small town think, or oh, someone's gonna think I'm stupid, or on a larger scale, will PETA come after me if I film a cow the wrong way? You know, like you're gonna have all of those blockades that say, no, don't take that chance because it's a little scary, it's a little confusing, it's a little new.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember what that identifying moment for you was of like, you know what, let's go?
I think honestly, having my dad's cosign, and I know that sounds really silly, but my dad has been like just such a fantastic father and a great like inspiration for me. And I remember feeling like I was going to let people down because I had been this good student my entire life. Like I could have went to vet school and I could have probably graduated and done well. And I was also looking at potentially getting my PhD in chemistry itself. And so I felt like those were legit attributes to bring. And I felt like, oh, if I just make these silly, goofy videos, like, is that going to make my dad embarrassed for me to be his daughter? Or like, you know, is that not going to live up to it? But I remember showing him that first video of Snow and like showing him the views and like talking about how many followers I had gotten at that point, and him just being so excited about it. And I was just like, oh my God. And I remember when I launched my first small business, Heifer Please Co., I wanted to make sure I stayed in my own, like I didn't want to get too big for my britches essentially. And so I literally just had 7 sticker designs, and I had a cardboard box, and I had all the stickers in different baggies. And I started that way because I knew logistically I could use literal envelopes and stamps and send stickers that way. Yeah. And so when I launched my stickers, I was up in my room and I was filling out all of the envelopes by hand. And I remember my dad just would come up and check in every now and then and be like, how many states have you sold to so far? And I hit all 50 states in my first sticker launch. And I remember just being like, holy crap. Because I was working out of my bedroom. Like I was going to work during the day, coming home and just filling out these envelopes. Like I filled out every single envelope by hand.
That's awesome. And they were, you said it was a bunch of stickers?
Yeah.
That was the first. So the first brand was like a sticker-based brand.
I built a lot more. I did have apparel. I had cow plushies with it. I had some like tumbler cups and other accessories. But yeah, it started as just some sticker designs because I was trying to stay feasible, like what I could afford, and then also what I could like do by myself. Yeah. I didn't want to get too out of control, you know?
Yeah, you could maintain the process.
Yes.
Now, were you designing all of this stuff?
No,
were you
I
finding
had
designers?
graphic designers that I had kind of like had freelance for me. Yes, because I unfortunately I can come up with a good idea, I cannot draw it.
Yeah.
It's really funny if you look at like the comparison of what I would like mock up for the artist versus what they ended up coming up with, because you're like, girl, what is that stick figure? And I'm like, I'm always envious of very artistic people because I am not it.
I love that though. That's I love a good before and after.
Oh yeah,
too. So
those are.
Yes. Okay, so how, like, I guess, where were you at in life when you launched that first brand? Is that like college years, high school years?
It was 2020 because it was,
okay.
it was after I had switched jobs. I had gotten a job that I thought was going to take me really far because I was like, you know, the social media thing, absolutely still want to do. But I was so scared of making that a full-time career. And this job that I got was in the ag industry. So I thought, heck yeah, I'm going back to one of these college degrees. I'm going to make an impact and blah, 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 blah. And then I can also have that job for a consistent income, insurance, 401k, all that good stuff, and then still continue my social media. And the sticker design business came from sheer people just being like, we want merch. And I was like, okay, I don't want to just like work with a company, because a lot of times those are not very hands-on with creators. It's like kind of just, you don't have a lot of control. And I wanted to be able to be in charge of quality assurance as well. So I took it on as just building a small business instead of just partnering with, I don't even know any of the companies that do like merch for creators, but that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Take me back to like small town life and growing up, like, because I'm also from a small town here in Ohio.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have like the farm life background or anything like that, but like my small town is just that like dainty little place that unfortunately has gradually like fallen apart over the last like 20 years. But like, what's small town life like for you? What's growing up like for you? Was it like growing up on a farm and everything?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
okay.
We've had cattle since I was 6. So I don't really have memories before having cattle and before living in that lifestyle. And I always loved it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I have no desire. Yeah, I could probably have more opportunities if I moved to a big city, but you can count me out. I go get my mail without pants on. That's where I want to be. That's where I want to be.
Yes.
There's nobody that drives past my road hardly. I live in internet is ass, but, and I have no idea what it's like to Uber Eats or even Uber, period. You got to have a DD, or you got to get drunk at somebody's house if you want to go party.
Amazing.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It is my own little piece of paradise.
Did you ever, now having that perspective of, I kind of love being in the middle of nowhere. I love, the country life. While you're like navigating that, and like you've mentioned a couple times of, I wanted to kind of get into creation and being funny and all this sort of stuff and owning that. But I always kind of had that worry in the back of my mind of what's my small town community gonna think of me, or who's this person gonna think of me, whatever. Like, how did you balance that? Because I dealt with like the exact same thing growing up. Like in my small town, if you did anything that was other than the norm, you were shit talked for it. Like I have this distinct memory, and I'm sure everybody has grown up now and is adults, and it's just a stupid thing, but like one of the strangest things that ever happened to me in high school was once I started getting involved in like the music industry and I joined a band. I love branding and marketing and promotion and all this sort of stuff like well before everybody was doing it online and all this sort of so like I took it very seriously at that point in time. I was like, how do I market this band? How do I brand it? But because I took it so seriously, there was a small group of people like at my school who were like, you're a fucking idiot loser. Fuck you for thinking your thing's cool. And literally they went as far as to create a mock band.
Shut up.
To make fun of my actual band.
And where are they now? Please tell me one of them's a manager at like a fucking McDonald's.
They probably are, and most likely. And
no shade to anybody who works at McDonald's, by the way.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Unless you bullied somebody and thought you were better than them.
Then good for you.
Then, congrats. No, to be completely honest, 2 of them have over the years messaged me asking me how to become a freelance creative.
And did you say?
I didn't. I should have probably. It could have gotten some revenge,
you should have been like, what's a great plan actually is to create a mock business and try to do everything I do.
You should just make fun of whatever the thing is you want. That'll get you real far.
Yeah, that always gets you far in life.
But like that was my experience, right? Is like you do anything that the friends group or the people at school or whatever think is different. And because I was taking something seriously and wanting to kind of level myself up, quote unquote. Now the band never really did anything, but like the fact that I was taking it seriously and cared, to them they were like, you're a fucking idiot. So I say that story to say like, was that kind of what was going through your head at the time? Did any of that ever happen?
So I didn't get into creation until I was already out. I was in my early 20s. And I am a very excluded person from my town, in the sense that not on purpose. I just don't keep up with anybody. It's always so funny because I have one friend who grew up where we grew up. Then she's like she's 4 years older than me, I think. She grew up where we grew up, but then she went to a school in Florida and then kind of always stayed away from our area and then came back. And she knows more people than I do, even though she's been gone for 15 years. And she's always like, how do you not know these people? I'm like, because I don't care to know. And it's not because they're not good people. It's just I don't care to deal with the petty drama and that. I do know that in the beginning, when I first started taking it seriously, people made fun of me when I had just a couple 100K. And now they go, oh my God, I went to high school with Lacie. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. We weren't friends. I had one guy, my brother texted me randomly and was like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I was like, I worked with his sister about a decade ago. And he was like, oh, did you date him? I said, no. He tried to ask me on a date and then couldn't even make eye contact with me when I was his waitress, so I never texted him back. He's like, he was at a party with me and he was telling his wife, he was flexing that you guys dated because she follows you on TikTok. And I said, that motherfucker. I said, we did not. I said, also, so weird and gross to talk to your loving wife. And just because she was a kind of fan of mine to be like, yeah, I dated her. No, you didn't.
That is wild.
You couldn't even look me in my blue eyes. Don't even.
That's wild.
Get out of here. So I had a little bit of that, but honestly, if other people talked shit, I didn't really care and I didn't really pay any attention to it because I was developing a community online. Because I'm already just different in a lot of aspects in my small town. I vote very differently than everybody in my small town. And so I already kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And so I just started to make that my thing. I started getting a lot more tattoos without caring what people thought. And I started dyeing my hair crazy colors because you want to call me a sore thumb, baby, I'll look like one then. Like I just didn't care. And that's kind of how my brand ended up too, because I wanted it to be vulgar and out there and edgy, because I feel like there's so many, which like not to skip a whole bunch of chapters, but there's so many brands that are marketed for men. Like men can wear a shirt that says, or a hat that says, show me your butthole. And it's funny, dude, that's hilarious. But like I cuss and they're like, that's not ladylike. And I'm like, whatever.
Totally understandable. Well, I mean, let's jump a couple of those chapters. Like let's so you have the initial brand. The stickers, we're keeping it containable, all this sort of stuff. Like what's the next few years like in that sense? Like,
so I kept creating content. The second pinnacle moment where I thought my world was ending was I was wrongfully fired from that ag job. So my safety net was gone, completely gone. And I had a couple options. I could have obviously looked for another job in the industry and everything. And I remember my dad like sitting me down. Well, we were standing, but regardless, I remember we were in the kitchen and he was like, I know that this feels like the world is ending. He's like, and it's allowed to. He's like, but I swear you're meant for bigger things. He's like, you can do that. He's like, you would have never quit that job and they're awful to you. Because they were. I got fired because I'm a liberal working with conservative men. That's 100% why I got fired. They screamed in my face, called me a dumb bitch, and I would cry at least once a week. But it was consistent pay, it was an easy job, and I had good benefits. So I wasn't going to leave.
Wild.
You know, I'm a tough cookie. You can call me just about anything and it won't hurt my feelings because I'm not a snowflake. As
you would assume.
I'm not. But he was like, you can do this. He's like, you would never have quit that job. You're making money off the internet. You're making money off your business. You can run business. He was like, just don't feel like your world is ending. Don't feel like this door has slammed shut in your face. And that night, I told my followers I had lost my job, and they spent over $6,000 in my store in that one night.
That is
and almost sold me out of everything.
Wow.
Because they wanted my Cash App, they wanted my PayPal, and I said, I don't want you guys to send me money. And so then a few people were in the live being like, but she has a small business, guys. Go make an order. And I didn't even direct them. They just did that on their own. And so I just kept building that momentum. I ended up that year was it that year? I think I bought my trailer in 2022. So yeah, I think I was already doing that. I wanted to be able to go to trade shows and set up places to be able to sell in person. And so I bought a little 14-foot trailer enclosed, and I turned it into this adorable little mobile shop. And I started going places as well as selling online. And Heifer Please Co. is fully sustainable on its own. That's something a lot of people don't understand is my online sales are probably, I'd say 85% people who know me on the internet. But my in-person sales where I make more money, 85 to 90% have no idea who I am. Because the internet's huge, okay? I'm not a celebrity. So like people don't know who I am. They just buy because I get the product's good. They like it. They like the price. They like the shop, everything. So that business is now fully sustainable of its own. It's been dormant for a while because I'm a one-woman show trying to do all this. And so I was like, I can't keep this going while also building this. But I believe my best friend is going to buy Heifer Please Co. from me and start running it because she's been my only employee with it anyway. She has run the shows with me where I've gone. And so I know that she'll take it and prosper. She's going to keep a lot of the same stuff. So obviously it's not going to be a complete change of brand. But then I can just focus on my new child.
Yeah. That is, even just hearing that, like, even you potentially like selling a brand to someone who worked on it with you, from my viewpoint, like that is one of the coolest things. Like it really, as simple as silly as that might sound, like the idea that you like built something up to a point where it's even sellable in any way. Like we're not talking, millions of dollars or whatever, but that doesn't matter. Like to even, if I ever built a brand or an idea to the point where someone else was as bought in as I was and wanted to truly see it continue if I could not continue it, to where they're like, hey, let's figure out a deal for me to take this over. Like that in itself, I feel like is such a cool thing. Random note for me to make, but like that is just a cool thing to hear in general. Of like, yep, I built up a brand and now I'm doing another one, and I might sell the other one to see somebody keep it going, because that's something that we were talking about before we recorded, is like, I feel like it is so hard to find people who not only truly believe in you and your idea, but also when it really comes to those actionable points of truly collaborating, truly helping build a vision, that is for some reason very difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the idea of something, but not everybody loves the work behind the something.
And that's why when it came to that thought process, because for me, logistically, it just came down to the tax nightmare that it would be trying to keep both of those aggressively separate while I'm the only person running two. Yeah. That is the biggest thing that it came down to. And my best friend, we've been best friends since high school. She was always in my corner, always supporting me. As soon as I started making the videos and making content, she was always right there with me, helping in any way possible. And so when I launched Heifer Please Co., like I said, she was like my first employee. One of my first shows I ever did was FFA convention up here in Columbus, and she left her child and husband at home and stayed in a hotel with me for a couple days so that she could help run the trailer with me. And obviously I paid her, but she just wanted to, she didn't need to get paid. She would have done it for free. But she, I think, also has a very good business mindset. I think she would really do well at running something like that. Her mom does something adjacent. Her mom does the sublimation, but does really well. She makes t-shirts, the tumblers, all that. She's actually made some of my tumblers, and she made crew necks for me. And so I kind of just came to her and was like, do you want to buy this? I was like, I'm not going to charge you an arm and a leg. I was like, but you can have the website, the platforms, the trailer, all of it, and all the designs with it. And then you can go nuts. Because I also told her if she wanted to not pay me outright and like up front, we could just do a percentage style. But she was like, no, I think I can just, and I was like, I don't care either way. I was like, I honestly, I was like, if I had the money, I would just let you run it for free, because you're going to buy a lot of stuff anyway. But I'm also, the trailer being such a large aspect, that's the biggest reason that I'm selling it to her, is because the trailer itself was not a cheap endeavor, between buying it itself and then completely renovating it to be a little shop.
Of course. Yeah. Now, something else we were talking about earlier is just dealing with people online. Like, how do you do it? Like, because, I'm asking that as a general question, but I'm also like, I've posted, a short film, or something before, and like, you get a bunch of people being like, this is dope. And then you get the one person who's like, you really thought that take was the best take? You're a shit actor. And I'm like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have posted this at all.
The quickest way to think of that, do you have time to shit talk people? Do you take the time out of your day to do that?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yep. I like that. I like that.
I've also never, ever had somebody more successful shit on me.
Right.
So, like, the biggest one, because that's the thing, is like, predominantly I'm very lucky to where, I cuss like a sailor, and sometimes people have a problem with a grown adult using grown adult words, which is wild to me.
Right.
But for the most part, my content's pretty wholesome. It's just cute cows and educating with a little bit of like hee ha ha's thrown in. So like, it's pretty hard to shit on it, but people find a way.
Oh yeah.
So insecure men like to call me fat.
Nice.
But guess what? It's never attractive men.
Yeah,
it's always men who are fatter than me.
Right.
It's always, and I'm like, what the hell? And the funniest thing is, I had one video in 2023 go very viral. That was like the first video I had ever done that many. I think on all platforms, so on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, it has at least 60 million views on all three of them separately.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of the reason those videos had to do so well is because men were like, had to say, oh, they're twins. Oh, which one's the cow? Didn't know cows could talk. And there's hundreds of thousands of those comments, Ross. But guess what? I paid for a 2023 Polaris Ranger cash thanks to all of those comments.
Yeah, I love that so much.
So keep calling me fat, baby.
Yeah. That it's just such a wild thing that is even like, and it's obvious. Like anybody listening to this, and
they're sad and they're miserable, and they have to project. That's what you have to look at it as.
Yep.
Because for a second you can let it affect you, and that's okay. Because having somebody comment on your body that much, I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes it does suck. Okay? But at the end of the day, I also look at it and I'm like, I would never take the time to make somebody else feel bad. And I don't have the time. Because, I'm not perfect. I judge I'm a judgy little bitch. But I have the decency to scroll. I don't have to leave that judgment in the comments for that person to consume because I care that I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings. So, like, yeah, I might be a judgy little asshole. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not perfect. I don't scroll like, everyone's beautiful, amazing, and fantastic, and every idea is correct. Like, no.
Same, yeah.
But I have at least that decency and that filter to go, I would never say that.
Yeah. What does me adding this comment
That
really
doesn't
do for
yeah,
anybody?
that's not going to help anybody in this situation.
No, it
and
doesn't.
I have no reason to shit on this person. I have no idea how that's going to affect them in their day. No, it ain't worth it.
It's funny, even just the way that social media works now. Like so one of the other shows I do, it's with two friends of mine, Leah and Brittany. It's a show called Honestly Same. Just kind of like a life talk, roundtable discussion type of podcast, right? Very much like you're sitting in the living room with your friends while they talk about stuff, right? And one of our recent episodes, we were doing a thing where we were like pulling random subjects like out of a little bowl, and that was what we would talk about for the next 5 minutes or whatever. And we pulled Joe Rogan. And it's funny, and I literally explained all this on the show, but of course this is not what anybody hears when they're commenting. And it's like our most interacted with episode ever because we said things that piss people off.
Yeah.
Because we pulled Joe Rogan. I tell this entire story where I'm like, years ago in the early days of podcast, I loved Joe Rogan because he wasn't who he is now.
Yeah.
He was a dude.
I loved him on Fear Factor.
Yeah, even further back. And I'm not gonna rehash all this stuff. If you really want to know, go check out the episode. But I just explained how years and years ago, when he was on episode 50 of his show, he would just have interesting people who did interesting things. He would have people on and they would talk about aliens and Bigfoot and bettering yourself and taking care of yourself. Things that I'm like, hey, at that time I was like, man, this is amazing. Because I had a factory job at that point in time and I was like, these conversations are getting me through the day. Yeah. But then gradually over the years, he changed and people changed. That's fine. Yeah. But and now essentially Joe Rogan's a meme, right? If you say, hey, I listen to Joe Rogan, someone's like, oh, okay, you must be dumb as fuck, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're talking to a bro and then they're like, oh, fuck yeah, dude.
He's the best guy ever.
He's fucking so smart. But basically what I explained is he just lost me over the years. I was a person who I was like, man, your interviews are getting shittier and shittier. You're getting weirder and weirder people on with very specific political opinions. You're feeding into that. And ultimately what my problem was I was like, I feel like he's not using his platform in a good way anymore. Yeah. And he doesn't understand. It's with great power comes great responsibility. And he kind of just turned into this dude who was like, you know what, today I feel like saying fuck women's right. He never has said that straight up. But for example, he's just like, you know what, today I'm just going to make a random joke about this. Well, unfortunately, your audience is not intelligent enough to know if you're being sarcastic. So they then take that and say, man, my fucking Joe Rogan dude, he fucking said fuck women. They're stupid. I believe that. So then you create this domino effect of stupidity, whether he meant it or even believes it or not, right? Yeah. So I explain all that on our episode, and I'm like, "Oh, no one lost
listens.
Me." It kind of
they just heard you shit on their guy.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about?
And that was what. And it's not a ton by any means, but for that show and its size, it was more than we've ever gotten. And there was YouTube comments where people were like, "Yeah, funny of these fucking people to shit talk Joe, acting like he's the problem when they're the ones shit talking him." And I'm like, there's no shit talking. Yeah. I have a different opinion than what you may have. Yep. But in that opinion, did you miss the part where I also said I was a fan of his?
And I just lost interest. And he lost me?
Yeah, he just lost me. And now I'm not saying that you're dumb or you're wrong if you're listening to him or whatever. Nope. Do I think he has stupid opinions and does dumb things? Yeah. But I'm sure within that, there's also plenty of still cool conversations that I just don't think are that cool anymore, and it's whatever. Yeah. Now, that was a whole side tangent to really say, coming back to, that video and the way that algorithms work, how did that end up on the side of the algorithm where Joe Rogan people are fuck you for saying
And you know what's really
different.
Funny is if Joe Rogan people came for me, one of Joe Rogan's really good friends, Brian Callen, he's a stand-up comedian. Yeah. Yeah, he follows me on Instagram and told me that I have what it takes to be a comedian and I'm funny as fuck. So if you want to hate on me, just know Joe Rogan probably knows I exist and he doesn't know you exist, brother. So.
Exactly. And honestly, it's you're sitting there and that person is going to praise somebody like that and be like, yeah, you fucking empowered.
And I mean, that's the thing is I just was very excited because obviously I don't agree with a lot of the things that, because like I didn't know who he was, which sounds like I'm not saying that in like I didn't know who he was, because he's way more relevant than I will ever be.
It was just out of your bubble.
It was just out of my bubble.
Yeah.
But when I saw 1 million followers and successful comedian, I was like, holy shit. And he DM'd me and was like, you're funny as hell. It makes so much sense that you are a comedian. Like, you're going to go far. You have what it takes. And that was so, like, regardless of us not aligning on our views and ideals, I also have to remember that man's like 50, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's in his own world. He's allowed to have those opinions and thoughts. That's the
Yep.
beauty of this country while we still have those freedoms.
Yeah, right. For right now.
For right now. But it was just so funny because when I told my brother that, I was like, wouldn't it be so fucking funny if I ended up somehow on the Joe Rogan Experience?
Oh, that'd be incredible. It would be incredible.
Like, Brian's like, you should have this girl on. And then all the men who call me fat, I'm just hanging out with their bro. Like, what's up,
like,
guys?
Hey, I'm with your dude.
I'm with your guy.
Yeah.
No, so that's like anytime I have a video, so I have 2.5 million followers on TikTok. So anytime my video hits over a couple million views, it has now hit the For You page, which then is when the cesspool happens.
Gotcha.
Because like I said, and what kills me, and what makes me really realize that like some men just aren't funny, is they will see that same comment 20,000 times and still have all of the gall to comment it like it's funny.
Yeah.
And that's all they have. That's all they have. Like, especially like any women listening, like if a man calls you fat, just know that's all he's got in the fucking tank. And that's sad. Because I could roast him to tears.
Right.
Because that's comedy.
And that is the thing also of like just the weird thing that social media has done to everyone's opinions and their empowerment, quote unquote, behind it is like, one, because everybody gets to say whatever they want about something with no consequences, they're like, hell yeah, my brain has not evolved long enough to be able to fathom the thing that I have access to everybody in the world and can say whatever I want with no consequences. So it's like, we're also just not adjusted to social media as human beings.
We really aren't.
But like, the other thing is too, is like, I don't understand where the lack of filter of one, you know, like you were talking about, like, hey, you don't have to share your opinion.
No.
I judge a lot too. Like, I'll be scrolling and
Straight
I see like
up, I'm not
some
perfect.
photography from a creator and I'm like, yo, those
That's
photos
ass.
fucking suck.
That's ass.
But guess what?
I'm not going to say it.
A lot of the times, I'll actually sometimes comment the opposite.
Yeah,
I'll be like,
be
great
supportive.
work, dude, proud of you.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter
No.
if I like their photos or not.
Art
They
is
like 'em.
subjective.
Yes. And so, like, there's a lot of art that I think fucking sucks. It's so shitty. But it doesn't matter if I think it's shitty. So in the same way, and this is where, like, the shitty comments, always I'm like, man, like, how do you not have anything better to do? Or how can you not critically think? Because somebody who doesn't like you or your content, or the person who's mad at me because I said I stopped liking Joe Rogan, they are now saying, oh, well, now we're on opposing sides.
Yeah.
Rather than being able to critically think and say,
This is just
You know
another
what?
human being out of 8 billion of us that has a different opinion than me.
that's
That's
just a
crazy.
person with a different opinion. You know, he did say that he like used to like Joe Rogan and
You know,
and kinda,
also,
like,
how wild is it to ride Joe Rogan's dick so hard when he does not know you exist?
yes, why you're sticking up for him in this small podcast?
Like, you guys are such cool bros.
It
Like,
doesn't matter. Like,
No!
it doesn't matter. And again, it's like the lack of critical thinking of I'm not sitting and saying everything he says is fucking stupid.
all of his
and
fans are fucking
he's-
stupid. Like,
No,
you didn't say
I'm
that.
sitting and saying, yeah, it's just gotten weird.
Yeah.
And if anything, I'm like, I wish I did still like him the way I did because it was a podcast I used to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's hard now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't love it because
Yeah.
you've clearly picked a realm that you live within. But like, you know, you're living the meme essentially. But I'm like, that has nothing to do with you, random commenter. It honestly even has nothing. Joe Rogan doesn't know I exist.
But also,
it doesn't matter.
There's two big key factors, because especially when you talked about we're not like adjusted to social media, and that's so true. Because here's the two big factors I want to drive home, because these are my favorite to talk about. Is one, if you're commenting on my stuff how much you hate it, you're not a hater, you're a fan. Because not only have you now watched my video to its entirety to gain me some kind of monetization, you have told the algorithm that you like this content and to show you more of it, and then you would take the time out of your day to clock in on the internet and to comment back, or to comment. And then usually if I comment, we're in a little comment war, and there's two things I hate about that. Is one, anytime I call out, like if I make a video response to a comment, people are like, they want the attention, that's what they want. No, they don't. Name me one person that's gotten famous off of commenting on other people's videos really quick. Name me one
Yeah.
person who makes money off that. And two, my rate of when I call someone out, they either delete their comment, they either apologize. I've had men DM me like, can you please take this video down? I'm receiving so much hate. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Say it with your chest, you little bitch.
Suck
like,
it up.
yeah, like it's like they don't want that. They are hoping they see a video that's very viral with 10,000 comments, and there it's like, I'm miserable. I'm gonna project, and I can hide. And when I see it, I'm calling it out.
And I love that.
But then people will be like, oh my God, so you really have the time to waste on haters? And I'm like, baby girl, I'm paid to be on the internet. I'm clocked in right now. You're doing it for free. Like, what do you mean? You're going to come to me on my platform that's owned by me. That's my name up there. And I'm commenting back, defending my character, my name, whatever. And you think that's me wasting time when I'm just making more money?
That is the strangest thing. And like, I literally had this thought the other day because I just saw, you know, it wasn't any of my stuff, but I just saw more of the classic like cesspool comment section of people just being fucking weird
Awful.
idiots.
They can be awful.
And
I've gotten some rough ones before.
and like, it just makes me, I'm like, man, like, I wish it was more acceptable sometimes to beat someone up. And I wish...
Dude, I just said this on a live the other day. I said, with peace and love, I've never been a confrontational person, but I'm such at a point where I'm like, you wouldn't say that shit to my face. Come say it to my face and I'll rock you.
Literally,
I don't care if you're 6'4".
Same. I'm like, man, I'm the least, like, it takes so much to actually
Same.
get me
My
angry.
fuse is almost infinite.
I never, ever want to fight
No.
anybody. And I'm not going to sit and be like, oh, I fucking could.
Yeah.
No clue, right?
I don't either.
I don't necessarily, I'm not looking for that, but I am like, man, I feel like people should get beat up more often.
Yes. And I know that
Like-
sounds awful, but I'm also just like, say that shit to my face and watch me rock your shit.
But like when you're sitting,
I've
and-
never
and,
once
like-
been called fat in person.
Right,
Never once.
right.
I've never once had somebody to my face tell me I look like a cow. And people, I always use this analogy when they're like, but why do you give it energy and why do you address it? Because if I was at a bar and I unprovoked, somebody came up and said, you look like a cow, the way I would whip around and have some shit to say to you. And you better look like a goddamn Greek god when I
Right.
turn around. Because
Right.
if you don't, that's the first place I'm going. Because you go low, I go lower.
But it also goes back to the thing you said earlier of like, it's never anyone who's quote unquote doing better than you.
No.
It's never, and that doesn't mean that there's not someday, somewhere, some big celebrity could shit on you and be like, she's stupid.
But they
it
don't.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't
And they
hasn't
don't.
happened.
Right.
I have celebrities that actually follow me and support me.
And it's like, and it doesn't matter because again, when someone is doing well, they're like, I'm not going to try and drag this other person down. It's always the people who got nothing better to do.
No, it's always them.
And it is
and
just
it
the people
kills
that
me.
exist on the internet.
It kills me because they don't see it. It's like all of the signs are there and they're in their own little world of like, no, I'm going to go shit on this random lady online. Like one guy last night, listen to this. I was live on TikTok and a guy came in and thought he'd be really funny. And like, I'm a vocal girly. I don't know if anyone could tell this. I also I was raised by a blue collar man who made me think I was his son. Okay. So not only am I not afraid of hard labor, I'm also not afraid of you. And so literally he comes in and says, do women still have their rights? And so I'm like, all right, brother, you just came into a live with all 87 of us are women. This was really smart. And so I roast him a little bit. I said, you know, as of February 7th at 8:15 that it is right now, I think we still do. So I have every right to say, shut the fuck up and get the hell off my live. And he just goes, you should stick to cows. I said, did you think you ate with that, brother? Stick to the cows. What's made me the most money ever in my life. Thank you for that riveting advice. I will stick to it, but I also do stand up. And I also have written a book, and I also have my second business that's probably going to be successful as well. So, like, get fucked and go back to Chase Bank. Like, get out of here.
Right. That is honestly.
It's so crazy. And then people will be like, well, you're being mean. I don't give a fuck. Why are we now criticizing I did nothing. I did nothing to anybody. I post videos for people to be entertained, educated, and if they choose their own free will to watch it, follow me, anything. If you're going to come to me with some hot fire shit, I have every right to come back at you with some hot fire shit. It doesn't matter if I have a platform or not. You know the consequences. If you comment on a public figure's public page publicly, then you need to do it with your 10 toes down.
Yep. And
Because that level of being able to be hidden is what's made people as vile as they are.
Right.
So I'll call it out every time. I don't give a shit.
Yep. And that is, you know, that's a thing that, and there's multi-layers to this outside of social media too, but like, I want shitty people to be called out for being shitty.
Everywhere. Even in the White House. Please,
Yeah.
more of that.
What? Wait a second.
They're all
There's a
good. They just
shitty-
spend $600 million on sushi.
What? A shitty person in the White House? What are you talking about?
No, I'm going to go buy merch for them.
So, like, that's literally the thing is I'm like, anybody, anywhere, like, no, hold people accountable. And we're asking for a lot, and we're just sitting here on a podcast and, you know, whatever. But, like,
because the same goes to me. If you want to call me out for some shit, call me out. If you think I'm doing something wrong, call me out. But if you're going to come in my comments and act like a fucking meanie pants, I'm going to come back.
And that's the weird thing, again, with the social media thing, or just the world in general. It's like, when someone is shitty, and they're shitty towards somebody.
Yeah.
It's the classic, like, oh, well, be the bigger person.
No,
why is it
I'm
on
5'3".
me, the bigger person?
I'm 5'3", brother.
Like, why is it on me? Why is it always the person that gets wronged that has to be the bigger person?
We love to support we hate to support a victim. We always want to support the bad guy in every capacity in this world. We always do, because people look at me like a man can come in and tell me that I'm ugly, fat, stupid, blah, 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 and then I'll make a response video and go, okay, where's your business that you've built? Where's your stand-up routine? Or like usually I do, like I never even go as low. I did in the beginning sometimes. I would get their profile pictures and be like, hey guys, you want to see what peak male performance looks like if he's going to call me fat?
Yep.
Because you would think I was an 800-pound sea monster online, the way some men comment. And I'm like, I am not a Victoria's Secret model, but Jesus Christ, man, like and then I look at the profile pictures and I'm like, I'm out of your league.
Right.
With so much peace and love, brother.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
Yep. And again, it's the lack of consequences that these people
And I've done
have
that. There was one man who, no hate, because like I always call it fat on fat crime. Because I looked at one guy who called me a heifer, and I looked at his profile picture, and the man is every bit of him wearing a 3XL. So I commented back, I said, brother, who the fuck are you talking to? Unless it's the mirror.
Right.
And like people will be like, you're so mean, you're bullying. And I'm like, I'm matching energy, baby.
Yeah, it's like, do you not remember that he was mean first?
And he could have if he would have shut up, I wouldn't have said a goddamn thing.
Yeah,
if he could have shut his mouth shut, I wouldn't have said a damn thing. I wouldn't have known he'd existed.
It would be so much different if you were sitting as this influencer creator and you were going through like your followers or likes, picking out people's random profiles and roasting them.
But no, I just wait till you bring it to me. And that's the thing I say, because like if there's one thing I'm confident about is that I am a funny bitch. I've been through a lot of trauma. You don't want to go toe to toe with me.
Right.
Because if all you've got in the tank is that I'm fat, I'm going to destroy you.
And again, it's just people don't like the consequences of their actions.
No, and they need them.
Yes.
Consequences have been lost on the internet because so many people, because for a couple years when the internet first came out and influencing was a thing, everyone pushed on influencers, take the high road. Don't let it bother you. Don't let it affect you. And everyone, they just want attention. No, they don't. They don't want me to see their comment. I can tell you that right now. They hate to see me coming.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. Because you shared the stories of you calling somebody out and they DM you like, hey, please, sorry, can you take that down? It's like, now you want to backtrack?
It was funny. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, no.
I didn't laugh.
Like,
no one else laughed.
You're just being an asshole.
You just wanted to feel good.
Right.
You saw so many other men calling me like, oh, twins, and you wanted to take credit for that because that's what you love to do. And there you go. And you just did the same thing. And the universe happened to place me in front of your specific comment, and that's the one that I responded to.
And it is just wild on just like a zoom out level that like. And it's not to say that there's not any good in the world. That there's not
the internet's also a
comments and
fantastic, amazing place.
It
can be, yes.
Nothing in the world is either all good or either all bad, with the exception of a couple things. But it's like most things live somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
It's got good, it's got bad with it. And yes, of course, social media is that. There are tons of good, amazing things that come from social media just as much as there is the bad. But the
only way to change it is to point out the bad. That's what people understand. Because people get on me like, well, you're not giving any attention to your followers that support you and love you. Yes, I am. Every video I make is for the people who genuinely love and support me. Right. Every ounce of me taking a full year to build this brand was to make sure that the people that follow and support me have the best quality at the best price. Everything I do is for those people. That quick second, and even the videos that I make when I'm shitting on someone is for my female audience, because they see a woman not give a fuck that a man thinks I'm fat. It helps their confidence.
Yep.
I don't make those response videos for those men. I make it because it's another video that I make. No video is a waste of money for me. I hate when people say that. Don't waste your energy. This is my job. Every video I make makes me money.
Give me some more interactions, would you?
Like, that's my job, I fear. Like, I literally make content for a living. If I can take a fat joke and turn it into a video. And then not only am I calling out the bad, I'm raising up women and body positivity, but then I'm also collecting a small check. It may not be crazy. Like every video, I mean, a video with only 10,000 views, it may make $8, but it's still
it's
a video.
It's
like that's my job.
Yeah. And again, it's also not like you're not one of these like rage bait creators.
No.
You're not just doing stuff
chill.
just to try and get the heated interaction.
I will say, I mean, do I know that if I sit next to my cow, men will see it and then call me fat, and it might pay for another Polaris? Yes. Like, but I'm also not doing things inherently to piss people off.
No.
I just exist as a body that isn't skinny. But that's the thing too, is like men will call you fat at any size.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't matter.
No, I see.
And not that it doesn't matter, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes,
like,
it does not matter your actual size.
They're going to find a way.
Because it's the lowest blow they can go.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to how our societal standards are. Women are meant to be pretty things to stare at and sex symbols. And so if you come at us for the one thing we're insecure about constantly, because we're always trying to reach a elite we'll never be, they think that that's the ultimate dig. But then when you come across a feral bitch who makes her entire brand out of not giving a fuck, with peace and love, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's gonna backfire.
Yeah, because I have to be a little thick. I deal with cows every day. You think I can take a hit if I was a swift wind could take me?
Right. Yeah.
Like I walk up to a 3,000-pound bull and I pet him and call him a good little guy. You think I'm scared of 5'7" Brett?
Yeah, with chin strap and
like
goes fishing up to and you know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you think I'm scared of you?
Yes. What having dealt with all of this stuff? And I don't know if you have these conversations often. I would assume maybe you would. What advice do you have for people who are trying to make a go at being some sort of a creator online, or maybe not even necessarily an influencer, but like they're trying to start a business, but
whatever their passion project is.
Yeah, it also
fucking
just
send it.
Yeah, just navigating this wild world where like you can get hate at any corner, and also everyone's trying to do everything all at once, and the internet is just filled with everything happening. I feel like it's very easy to take any of those things and get discouraged of like, well, why does my idea matter when there's 1,000 other things just like this? Or, oh man, I have some of that fear of like, I don't know if I should share this thing because what if somebody doesn't like it? Like, what's your advice to the person that's trying to get started in any of this?
You got to do it. You literally, if you, I thought of this the other day, whether it was, because I'm coming up on my 5 years, obviously, of being on the internet and just kind of saying fuck it and just doing what makes me happy and pursuing the things that I want to pursue. And any time that you invest in yourself is never time wasted. And you cannot accept criticism from the peanut gallery. Like, you cannot allow other people's opinions and thoughts, because I can tell you this with almost full certainty, the people who are giving you the most criticism up front and everything are jealous because they couldn't do it. The amount of people who told me how cringy it was to make TikToks and then tried to make a TikTok career and failed, because everyone's like, oh no, it's just so easy to be an influencer. It's easy to hit the algorithm. The algorithm is a lot of a game of chance, in my opinion, genuinely. You can make a video go viral, but to continue to build a community, build your platforms, and sustain them, that's where it does take talent, it does take work, and it does take dedication and consistency. But at the end of the day, if it's something you want to do, you need to only please yourself at the end of the day. Because that was a revelation I had a few years ago, because as I was coming into this as like being what my career was, I remember hearing comments and everything else. But then I remember I just thought for a second and I was like, you know what? If I sat down with 12-year-old Lacie, she'd think I was the coolest fucking person. Without hesitation. I know that if 12-year-old Lacie saw 28-year-old me, she would just be like, holy cow, like she's cool as hell. And I was like, that's all I care to impress. That's all I care to impress at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's it.
On this list of things that you were doing and have done that would undoubtedly impress 12-year-old Lacie, tell me about writing a book. Like, what the heck is that?
The feral cow lady wrote a book. I know.
That is an item on my bucket list, is that I would love to write a book at some point. I don't know what about. I have no idea. But I would love to even just do that, just to say that I did. Yeah. Even if if there were 5 people that bought it, I'd be like, I still made a book. I made a book.
No shit.
Tell me about that. How does that pop up? What is it? Like, when does that come about?
Yeah. So I genuinely never had any idea or desire to write a book. I was a science brain through and through, math and science. You give me calculus and I'm a happy girly. You make me write a thesis and I want to punch you in the face. I always hated writing. I just did not like writing papers. So the idea of a book was always something I was like, yeah, fucking right. But I worked with a management company briefly, and I got offered a book deal through a publishing house. And at first I was nervous because I thought, oh God, they're going to have me write like a freaking, like write a book. I'm like, bitch, what do you think I can do? The Hunger Games? Like, no. Or like an autobiography. I'm like, I feel like I'm not at a place where I need to write an autobiography yet. But they were like, no, actually, we kind of just, what's your, like, what's like vibe? They're like, it could be like, what if you just kind of told stories about your farm? And I was like, an adult storybook would be so cool. Like, could you imagine as somebody who, because like I know for me, I've been trying to get back into reading. Like I just said, I went to Barnes and Nobles, but sometimes the ADHD just kicks in. Right. And so then I'll either hyperfixate and I'll read the whole book, or I'll read like a chapter and then I won't pick it up for 6 months. And so I was like, what if there was an adult storybook that just had such a cool laid back vibe, and it reads as I talk. There's cuss words. It's like almost I'm doing a stand-up bit versus, you actually reading a story. And these are all real stories that happened while I was on the farm. Some are really freaking funny. Some are heartwarming. Some might be a little sad. But it's all real shit that has happened on my farm since I was a kid. And so I just like brought this collection of stories and I turned it into a book. And it's been really crazy because I actually just recently did the author review. So I saw the whole thing together and like reread it for everything, and I was entertained by my own book, and I was like, I think this might be a good fucking book. I was like kind of shocked by myself. I was like, this is actually really fun. And what's really like the craziest part of it is when you write books, like when there's on like the cover jacket of a book, there's these things called endorsements, and a lot of times you'll see from like New York Times or like other authors, and it's basically just a review. And so my publisher came to me and was like, you need to find these. And I've been very fortunate to where random celebrities and like real actual like predominant people follow me, and I follow them back. And so I decided to reach for the moon and hopefully land upon the stars, and I kind of did, because 2 of the people endorsing my book, I already have it. It's going to be on my fucking cover. The first one, well, both of them, it's like you have to be in that realm. But do you know the MTV show The Challenge?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you have watched any recent seasons. I
have not.
Okay. Well, there's one person who's been on there for a lot of seasons. She's been a champion once. I know she's been to several finals. Her name's Tori Deal. Okay. But she also, like, she's very like, she was on Ari the One. She was on MTV The Challenge. She's wrote her own book. So I was like, she would be cool. But, like, obviously we're not friends. We follow each other. We like each other's stuff occasionally. But I DM'd her, like, hey, you're also, like, an influencer / personality that's wrote a book. Would you be down to endorse my book? And she was like, hell yeah, I'd love to. That'd be an honor. And I was like, because, like, obviously not for everyone it isn't that cool. But for me, it's crazy because she's my favorite challenge champ. Like, she's my favorite challenge woman on the show and the franchise. And then, have you watched the show Yellowstone? Or at least heard of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the biggest shows right now, and especially in the Western / country community.
Right, yeah.
So Jimmy is a character. He's like a main character on Yellowstone. He follows me on Instagram.
That's so cool.
And so again, I'm like, I'm not friends with him, but I even have a joke in my book about Yellowstone. So I was like, this would be crazy if a character from Yellowstone endorsed my book. And he fucking did.
That is so cool. I love that.
And I just like was literally, I remember just like shaking, getting those DMs back of like, yeah, I'd love to. That'd be an honor. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, you're gonna read, you read my book and you endorsed it and said it was good, and that's on the cover forever. When people go buy the book, it'll say that it's endorsed by Jefferson White from fucking Yellowstone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now, like a side thing to that I love, outside of it just being cool, is like I also feel like that fits so directly into, what you kind of said earlier of just like, it's the just do it mentality.
Yeah.
It's the like, just send the DM.
When I first got that email about the book, I was like, what the fuck? But I was like, you know what? Let's full send it. And then that's how I felt when I messaged Tori and Jefferson both. I was like, I don't know. Because I was like, I don't want them to think that I'm just like a douchebag wanting them because of their names. I also do just respect them as people. Like, that's more than anything. And I was like, no, I'm just going to do it, because what's the worst thing that could happen? They get annoyed and block me? That'll suck. But alas, whatever.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So I just did. And then it ended up positive and, like, good for me. And I just cannot believe that that's 2 of my freaking endorsements.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you're starting a book, is it just like you've got like the notes app of your phone filled with all these random things? Are you like sitting down and structuring yourself like once a week I'm writing stories? So because of it being with a publisher and it was a book deal and I got paid up front,
I had like a timeline.
Yeah.
And so I was writing in Microsoft for them so that they could come in and do like grammatical edits. Because that's the thing is like, it really is a book that was written by me. Other than a few grammatical errors fixed or like making sure a sentence reads better, because I'm not obviously a author. That was it. Like but it's an unconventional book. It doesn't read like a normal book. Mm-hmm. You know, I say motherfuck and I say dumb shit and I have like quotations and all kinds of stuff in there. So, it's definitely not your typical book for sure. And like, that's what I love about it, because I cannot think of one book that compares to my book.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I'm also like, I don't go to the bookstore and read every single book or look at every single novel, but it's not an autobiography necessarily. It's an adult storybook.
Yeah. Now, tell me about the involvement in stand-up comedy.
So stand-up comedy was actually my first ever dream that I told no one about. The only person I ever told was my cousin M. I loved stand-up. I watched Seinfeld with my dad growing up. I also watched Blue Collar Comedy. So the fact that I was able to gain some comedy from there is impressive. I thought Larry the Cable Guy was the funniest motherfucker alive.
Oh, same. That was for those couple years, because I was in like middle school or something.
Yeah.
And again, small Ohio town.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you might be a redneck if you, and I'm like, oh,
I watch it now.
That's genius.
I watch it now and I was like, ooh, I laughed at that.
I have contemplated, because I also love the world of comedy.
Oh
like
my
a
God,
lot,
yes.
And was pretty obsessed with stand-up, and more so improv comedy growing up. And I, absolutely watched tons of Blue Collar. And I've contemplated, like, now I'm like, what would it be like to go back and watch some of their, like, big specials that I used to watch? I'm like, I don't know, like, does it destroy the fond memory of childhood that I have from it? Or would any of it even be funny? Because, like, I think back to some of the stuff, I'm like, I don't think You Might Be a Redneck as a concept is even funny anymore. Like, no. I don't even think, like,
because is Jeff Foxworthy even a redneck?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if that's funny. I don't know if Here's Your Sign is that even funny as a concept. So I'm like, it doesn't even matter what's being talked about in the jokes. I don't even think the concept of it is funny. I think the only one I maybe would still think is funny, even though I'm not saying I don't like any of them or anything like that.
Just have another Joe Rogan moment now where you're like, God,
I'm like, guys. I'm not saying I hate him. The only one that I kind of feel like would maybe hold up is maybe Ron White.
I think he still does more stand-up than the other ones.
Because I feel like his stand-up was just on the outside.
Here's the thing is I feel like I thought he was the least funny when I was a kid. Right. And now I feel like I think he'd be the most funny as an adult.
I think I'm exactly in line with where you're at.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, he's like, what are these jokes?
Like Ron came up, I'm like, fucking fast forward through this shit. But now I'm like, I want to see that Scotch glass right now.
Yeah, now I'm like, I kind of think he might be
the funniest
one that I think now, because he wasn't just like hanging on to like the big
random bits,
those sort of things. How did that happen? Get there? Blue Collar, you were a huge fan.
So I loved stand-up, but I lived in a small-ass town in Ohio, and I never thought I'd have the guts to do like an open mic night. So just stand-up was always like a pipe dream that was just going to be left alone. Because like I said, I never told anybody. Yeah. And then when social media happened, I was like, I wonder, because some people would tell me in the comments, like, you should do stand-up, you should do stand-up. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a little baby back bitch. I don't want to get up and do an open mic night. And then I got really freaking lucky. So this comedy club owner, I don't know if she came across my content, if she followed because she enjoyed it, but she owns 2 clubs. Well, I think it's a group of people that own all these clubs, but they own 2 clubs at the time in San Diego, California, and Chandler, Arizona. And they just emailed me last year, and they were like, hey, you want to come do some shows? And like originally they told me like the premise wasn't completely stand-up. They're like, we do shows with influencers who don't do stand-up. Like we can make the show around you kind of thing. And I told her, I was like, no, I want to do stand-up. Like I'm going to make this be my fuck it moment. This is going to be my just send it moment. And so I booked 2 shows. I booked 1 show to do in San Diego that night, and then the next day I drove to Chandler, Arizona, and I did my next show. So I got to do like a mini tour, and it was really nice. I always tell people that I cheated because I got to sell tickets for my first shows. Yeah. So people were coming to see me. And my 3rd show I did last month, I had some friends who just did this like woman in ag event. So I was kind of just a part of that show, which was still nice. Don't get me wrong. It was still very fun, but it wasn't the same comedy club vibe. So honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a harder show for me to do, not because of the like audience. It was just hard to get out of that dynamic because like, mind you, they had me speaking after a woman that has a purple fucking heart in the army.
Okay.
I had to follow her. Bitch has been in Iraq. And I was like, well, now I'm just going to talk about dick jokes or something and make y'all laugh, I guess. But my next one is in March because the people who own those 2 out there opened a 3rd club. And it was funny because my mom, they booked me for the show, like they emailed me about the show in Plano, Texas, before I even had done the stand-up in the other 2. And my mom's like, they don't even know if you're funny yet. And I was like, yeah, Mom, but they know I sell tickets. So like from a marketing strategy, that's why they did it.
Right.
But it's hard because obviously I think that I'm funny and I think I did really well. And I feel like there's a really great response. And I also had 2 comics open for me at both shows. They were just like local talent. And so the fact that I got to sell tickets and be the opener and do a 45-minute set is crazy. But what's even crazier is when I told the one guy, when I got to the 2nd show, he was my opener, and I was just talking to him in the green room, and he was just like, this is your 2nd show? And I was like, ever? Yeah. And he was just like, how long did you go for last night? And I was like, well, he had to stop me at 45 minutes. He's like, you shut the fuck up right now. He's like, most comics, their first sets are 10 minutes long. And I was like, dude, I can talk to a wall, unfortunately, or fortunately for me. Like, I was like, I've wanted to do stand-up for so long. So, like, whenever I've had funny life things happen, I've always kind of in my head tried to turn them into bits.
Yeah.
And I've also just kind of had some wild shit that end up being funny stories to tell. And so, yeah, that's something that I definitely want to pursue more. I'm currently in the process of trying to find, like, representation because I don't even know how to go about booking more clubs. I just got lucky that those owners reached out to me. Oops, sorry. Hello. Let me just fuck with the mic some more. But so that's something I would love to pursue more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just have to kind of figure out how to figure that out, honestly.
What was it like going up on stage that first time?
I was nervous, but also as soon as the first joke started flowing, as corny as it sounds, it just felt right. Like, it just really did. I very much enjoyed it, and it was just really cool. Because I remember even my dad, like, when I told him I was going to do the stand-up thing, he was like, he's like, I'm not, like, trying to judge. He's like, but I didn't know you want to do stand-up. And I was like, Dad, I've wanted to do stand-up since I was 11. And he's like, why am I just now finding out about this 17 years later as your father? I was like, because I never told anyone. The only person I ever told was my cousin Em, and I made sure that she came to my first shows.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was like, you have to be here. You're the only person. Because we were so close growing up. And we're still close now, but we're just adults that have to, work and shit.
Of course.
But she was very excited to get to come, and she thought it was crazy too because she was back there in the green room with me, and she's like, this is nuts. Like, you talked about doing this shit when you were 10.
Man, that's so cool. That is an item on my life list right now that I'm trying to figure out, and the reason I haven't done it yet is absolutely fear.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I am just
That's what I always tell people. I'm like, I got so incredibly lucky, and I will never not admit that. Like,
yeah.
I did. Like, that was such a way easier experience to go about stand-up. Because when you do open mic nights, it's other comedians you're usually opening for. Those motherfuckers ain't gonna laugh at you, or they're gonna try not to. That'd be terrifying. Especially in these smaller areas, because, like, even though Columbus and Cincy are, like, bigger cities, and we're still a real red state. My comedy, I don't know if would go over super well.
Yeah. It depends on what county you're in. Apparently, there's like a couple of us who are on one side. Yeah. What's wild is like I've created my own door into the comedy scene here in Columbus, right? Because like I said, growing up, I've always loved stand up, always really loved improv comedy. And that was always a dream of mine, was like, how can I do some comedy and really want to get involved in improv? For me, I was like, I have no clue how to do it, but I started doing podcasts, and then I had a concept for an improv comedy podcast. And I was like, oh, it's like half a podcast, half a game show. Here's how I produce it. And by doing that, it opened up the door where people were like, hey, you do a comedy show, you're a comedian, come hang out with us, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I've made like all these friends in the comedy scene here in Columbus, and so many of them, like, I've shared, like, I want to do stand-up too, and they're like, go.
Yeah, you just gotta send it. But like
and
I said, that is the one thing where I'm like, I did cheat there. I'm like, I did cheat. I found a little life cheat code, okay?
and it's funny because like there's a few open mic nights reoccurring here in Columbus that like have very good crowds. Like the crowds are like so supportive.
Oh,
like they are there to support new jokes and new people, and like they know you might be uncomfortable. It's like the perfect first time place to go.
Hell yeah.
And even that, I'm like
scared.
And even reverting it back. And you said this earlier. You were like, I just kind of started to think of funny or weird things that happen in my life, and how can I turn them into a joke. I currently, and I know I can learn it and figure it out, but like, I don't know how to write a joke.
I don't really write much. That's the thing is like, I think that might like blow people's minds is because they were all like, did you write your set? And I'm like, I'm not going to do it like a speech. No. Like I have like the certain bits and the ideas, but I feel like both my shows were both different and I told different jokes at different shows those 2 nights back to back.
Cool. Yeah.
Because I also felt like then it was more fun for me too.
Yeah. And that's my thing is like I've done live improv shows.
Yeah.
So like I've been on stage, I've done this, I've gotten the laughs from the, you know, I'm like, okay, like, but there's something about just like making stuff up while you go that I'm like, I got that.
Yeah.
But whenever I think about anything, I'm like, how can I turn this story into a joke? I'm like, all right, go. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
No clue how to structure this as a joke whatsoever. So it's like, that's even like a even further stopping point for me where I'm like, well, even getting over the fear of going to an open mic or something, I'm like, I don't even know how to even bring material to that, like, or even have a joke that I could go say, like, so that whole process, that's something I'm like really trying to unlock.
Yeah.
And
I still don't have it either. That's the thing is like, mind you, I have 3 shows under my belt. It's not like I am a professional comedian now. I mean, I guess by the technicality, I've gotten paid to do comedy.
Yeah,
so I am a professional, but like still novice.
Yeah, right.
100%.
Well, and that was the funny thing too, is like, especially from the improv show, like, you know, I have so far done 2 seasons of it and have had, you know, all these other comedians on and stuff. And like, when I would be out at comedy shows, like they would introduce me to other people as this is Rossi's an improv comedian. And I remember like in later conversations with them, I'd be like, hey, like that was like kind of weird when you introduced me as an improv comedian. Like I'm not. And they're like, you are. Like it's just the owning the label thing. It's like, no, you do the thing. You might not do the thing on the level or in the light that you believed.
Is it? Yeah, because like, no, I'm not Tom Segura yet, but we both, he actually played at the show that he had done a show there, and I was shitting, pissing, throwing up.
That's
because
cool.
Him and Bert Kreischer and Eliza Schlesinger and like all these people had pictures of where they had done a show at that same one that I did my first shot, and I was like,
you're like, whoa.
I'm like, shut up, I like all these comedians.
What ground we are here.
I was like, this is weird.
Yeah. There's a lot to just owning.
But yeah, because that's the thing is, even before I did stand up, I was still a comedian. That's what I do online. I entertain people. My videos have way more comedy base than animal base.
Yeah.
Because that's what people understand is I'm like, because like sometimes people be like, oh, like I love your cows, and I'm like, if I posted videos with just the cows, no sound, none of you would watch these videos. Like it's my commentary. It's like the aspect of like me adding in. It's like me sharing that part of my life. That's like what's really actually funny. And so yeah, it's getting over that thought because that was a hurdle I got over. And honestly, talking to the other comedians was nice too. Because when I came up to them, I was kind of just like, I'm not worthy. Like I'm sorry, I cheated. And they're like, no, dude, why would you not take this opportunity?
You're like,
that's insane.
You're doing it. You're doing the thing.
They're like, you're still doing the thing. That's insane. And honestly, I feel like there was more pressure for me though, because I was the finishing act. Like I was the main event.
Yep.
And these people have been doing comedy for years, some of them. And I'm like, I gotta be funny now because I'm the freaking shebang.
That was something I was gonna say when you were talking about that earlier of you know, hey, like, all right, I cheated the system a little bit, like, sure, whatever, anybody can say any of that, but like technically you're also trying it with more pressure.
Yeah.
Like because it would
I went out to a paid audience.
Yes. People have paid to see there for you, and you are getting this opportunity through these people who are wanting you at these comedy clubs. So if anything, you're going out there with more pressure on your shoulders.
Yeah, there was a little bit more pressure, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to deliver. It's not just sort of the like, and again, all of them are equal struggles no matter where you're at, but like, you weren't just going out like, all right, I'm going to try some material.
We're going to do our best.
I'm the random on here, and we'll just see. It's like, all right, these people.
I was on the marquee.
Yeah, like, they came to see me, so I must deliver. I got to step up.
I got a full send it here.
Yes, 100%. Now, it seems like, based off of kind of what you've shared for when the next brand will be launching, this episode should be dropping probably a little bit before, but around general time frame. Can we talk about Cowgirl Hustle?
Yes.
Let's dig into it. Explain to me what Cowgirl Hustle is.
Cowgirl Hustle was another one of those times where I full fucking sent a DM and it changed my life. I don't know. I know you grew up in a really small town. And so if I say the name Lane Frost, do you know what I'm talking about?
That sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know.
That's okay. So rodeo scene. Lane Frost was probably he's probably the most famous cowboy and bull rider. He actually died while bull riding. He was the first and only one of two that have ever died, and he's the reason that they started wearing vests. But he was just at the time, rodeos had never been broadcasted on a level like that, and he really added to that. And he won the worlds. He won the world belt. Buckle, I should say. And so Lane Frost, I think he died in 1989, I want to say. I think that's the year. And which I'm an affiliate for them, so like me being wrong is actually really sad. So I always knew that name growing up, but rodeoing wasn't big in my area, so I wasn't as enthralled with the rodeo world. I was a show cattle girl. And so randomly, I noticed one day that Lane Frost brand on Instagram, because they built an entire legacy for him. So to live on with his legacy, essentially, they have built this entire clothing brand. It's very reputable. You'll see the LF a lot of places, especially more rural areas. It's a very well-known, established brand and has been for the last decade. They also they're one of the biggest sponsors for the NFR, which is the National Finals Rodeo. In Vegas, that's the Worlds. That's where Lane Frost ended up going and winning his buckle. And I saw that they followed me on Instagram, and I was like, holy shit. So I followed back, and then I just went a couple months. And then I was like, you know what? I need to take a chance. So I DM them, and I'm just like, hey, like, I think you guys are dope. Would love to maybe do, like, work together as a possibility, like, whatever kind of thing. Figuring I would get some intern teenager DMing me back, you know? And I just get a message back that's like, absolutely love the work that you do. I can't remember the exact message, but it was just like, we love your stuff. Go ahead and call me Stetson Frost, the fucking owner.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I'm going to call Stetson Frost right now, who's actually Lane's cousin. He's the one who built the brand and kept his legacy alive. And so I call him, and he just is like, hey, like, you know, we'd love for you to be an affiliate and, like, you know, help out and stuff. He's like, but honestly, he was just kind of like, I just see a lot of opportunities with you, Lacie. And he's like, I have another brand that I'm launching, this, that, and the other. So we just start like a casual relationship at that point, working together. I have an affiliate code. And then last February, he's like, hey, we just shot, because do you know the movie 8 Seconds? That was the movie about Lane Frost. It came out in the 90s. Okay. So that was a movie that they did based on Lane's life. And so they did a lot of checking in with Lane's family and making sure everything was right. But they wanted to do like a documentary. So he was releasing that. They had been working on it, and he was releasing it at the end of February for like a showing in that small town where Lane was from. So he's like, as an affiliate, I would love for you to come out. I would also just love if we could meet in person for the first time. And then what I didn't know at the time was the reason he really brought me on was because of his other company. Because see, Lane Frost is a very conservative Christian company based, because that's what his values were, very conservative Christian. Okay. And obviously, I kind of scare conservative Christians. So I still was like, they still promoted me. I still did photos and everything, but he was like, I really want you to be along for Western Hustle. He's like, Western Hustle is this new company I'm launching. I'm so excited for it, blah, blah, blah. And Stetson and I just genuinely became friends as well. Like, he immediately was like, you want help with your merch? I got you. I can set you up with my hats to be able to private label. I can set you up with better merch companies for better quality shirts. Like, he just immediately was one of those people. Gatekeeping was not in his vocabulary. He just wanted to help me, and he just saw something in me and wanted to help me succeed. And so in February, we had talked about, I had met with one of his artists that is actually the one who designed a lot of my stuff currently. And so I was able to work with him, get some ideas on the way for him to do some freelancing for me. And then he's like, you know, if you can come back sometime, we'll get you the samples of the Western Hustle hats when we're about to launch that, and then we can work on your stuff. So I'm like, cool. At this point, I think I'm just going to revamp Heifer Please Co. with better merchandise. Because that's the only reason I had never gone down the road of apparel, is because if I was going to do apparel, I wanted to do it right. Mm-hmm. And I never had that right, like, person, essentially. I didn't have that right hookup. And Stetson was going to be that hookup for me. And so I came back out there end of May, and Western Hustle's in full swing. I'm doing, you know, photo shoots and stuff for that. I get all the hats. I'm super excited. And we start talking about not Cowgirl Hustle yet. We start talking about Heifer Please Co. and that and everything, trying to start design hats. And Stetson's just like, if you're rebranding completely, I have a wild idea. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, when I decided I was going to build Western Hustle, it was because I wanted to do something more edgy than what Lane Frost can be, because I want to stay with the audience it's built. I don't want to do things that are vulgar, rowdy, and upset the customer base that I've built there, and I don't want to disrespect Lane's legacy like that, because he was always a very conservative Christian man. So he's like, Western Hustle is where I could be silly. I could be funny. I can have, catching bass and chasing ass shirts, He's like, but when I built that, I didn't want to have competition, because he is a very smart businessman. He was like, so I bought the LLC and rights to Western Hustle, Cowboy Hustle, Rodeo Hustle, and Cowgirl Hustle. He said Rodeo Time Hustle is now our media company that my brother works to do like production and videography stuff. He said Cowboy Hustle is going to be like a brother company to Lane Frost, to where it covers more of the rodeo space and not just bull riding. He said, but Cowgirl Hustle, I have no idea what to do with, and I want a badass cowgirl to run it. He's like, you want it? And I was like, huh?
So sick.
And so not only did he, hand me, because he's taking a cut, because he offered me both ways of buying it outright or him taking a cut. But with how much he's provided me, I'm like, you deserve a fucking cut, dude. Because not only do I have access to the Cowgirl Hustle as a brand and already a, established LLC and registered, but his brother and him helped design my logos. They are the ones who helped design my hats. They are completely private labeled. There's not a single other label on this. It's Cowgirl Hustle only. They helped me get my t-shirt connection with one of the guys who literally does merch for all country music artists. That's who's doing my freaking shirts. And just, there's so much that he can help me with, because he's like, you want to do sunglasses? I already have that connection. You want to do a perfume? I already have that connection. We have fucking beef jerky, Lacie. What do you want to do? And amazing. So I'm like, yeah, dude, you deserve a cut. So he was the biggest factor behind that. And I kind of honestly took after his business model, because when I watched him launch Western Hustle, it's very similar to what I wanted to do. He was like, when I want to drop Western Hustle, I want it to be a full established brand when I dropped it. He's like, I had merch on hand, I had videography stuff, I had the photography stuff, I had the website ready, so that when it dropped, it was an official brand from day one. And that's kind of the route that I took here. I started this journey originally back in February, a year ago. And this whole year I've been working on the marketing strategies. I've been working on the merchandise. I've gotten the samples. I've tested the shirt qualities, and I have gone through all of that. I had Josh come out and do the videography work so that I had a badass founder film and other things to do. I've had 2 different photo shoots. That way when I launch it, it's a whole brand.
Yep.
But it's just been terrifying.
Yeah.
I have so much confidence in it, and I have so much faith in it, but it is scary because, like I said, when I launched Heifer Please Co., I had no overhead hardly. I had 7 sticker designs out of a cardboard box, right, versus, I'm buying 5 figures worth of inventory. That's terrifying.
Right. Now, when it comes, I want to dig into the meaning behind these brands a little
bit.
Because I'm sure it's coded from so much of what we've already talked about. But just whether it's Heifer Please Co. or whether it's Cowgirl Hustle, for you, what's because, it could just be a case of hey, I'm a content creator and I'm an influencer and I wanted to start a brand. But I feel like it is more than that for you. What's the goal behind these things?
Yeah. So for me, I always loved the idea of having a brand so established and so successful that no one knows I'm the face behind it. I would love to see Cowgirl Hustle apparel out in the wild, walk past somebody, and them have no idea I'm the fucking creator. I just think that would be really cool. I would love to have a brand that just speaks for itself. What's funny is Western Hustle and Cowgirl Hustle, for me and Stetson both, were kind of a spite company. We both kind of did it out of spite, because for him, it was people told him he couldn't do it twice. They said, yeah, Lane, to try to discredit him, yeah, Lane Frost brand's good, but you couldn't do it again, And so I was like, so I'm going to do it again. For me, it's because of my outside the box thinking, because of I'm vulgar, because I'm vocal, because I'm a lot of things. I can't get companies to work with me hardly at all. I have the hardest time securing any kind of sponsor or brand partnership. I have a few companies like Stetson who have been way more helpful than any other company could be, or just any kind of brand deal could be. But, I look at, it's hard not to compare yourself, and I'll see these very traditionally attractive, skinny women in ag who are blonde, blue-eyed, and just post very wholesome content, which there's nothing wrong with. but they can secure every single brand deal I could dream of in the ag world or even just lifestyle world. And I'll message that same brand with 5 times that person's following, and I'll get crickets. And so I said, okay, you don't want to work with me? I'll compete with you.
Yeah. I love that.
I'll compete with you, and then you'll see what my audience could have done for your brand. It was full spite. Will I succeed in that? I don't know, but I'm running on spite.
Yeah.
And also just like, I wanted to have a brand that just spoke for the people who feel like outside of the box. Because I feel like, especially like when I did even my photo shoots, like our one photo shoot we did, I can't wait to post pictures of, literally it was when that hurricane came through. Like, but the day that they were scheduled to come do videography was the day that hurricane, I can't remember if it was Helene, whichever really bad one. It was like the 28th of September is when we did the photo shoot. And I mean, it hit Ohio bad. So I can't even, that really put in perspective how bad it was for people on the coasts. But the weather was awful. And instead of making that ruin my day, we did a photo shoot playing in cow shit in the mud and the rain and we were freaking slinging beers because the world has become such an Instagram profile of just perfection. Just, slate white, everything's clean, polished, every model looks the same, they're all perfect, and I wanted there to be none of that. I wanted this to look like real shit. Literally, there's cow shit in it. I wanted it to just feel like a brand where you don't feel like you have to look a certain way or act a certain way, and you can express yourself through fun clothes, because that's all they're supposed to be, is an expression of yourself. You can wear a shirt that says bad bitches only, that has me as a pinup and some cows, and it's sick as shit. And it's like, that doesn't make you a less productive member of society because your hat says bitches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I feel like there's not a big market for women, like, because obviously I want everyone to wear my clothing, and I have audiences everywhere, but I'm not going to lie to you and not say that my biggest audience that I like to, cater to is the girls, the gays, and the theys. That is my favorite audience. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. With peace and love. Okay, yeah. That's just targeting you. Like, I hate men. No. But and so I just wanted a fun, exciting brand that just breaks the standard quo too. Because I also feel like this is a very niche thing because I'm in the ag world and I dabble with the Western side. There's this big gatekeepingness of Western style and acting like you have to be a real cowboy. Like you can, even if you don't see it in the Western apparel side, Beyonce winning a Grammy for a country album has made people lose their mind because she's not country. And I'm like, if Morgan Wallen is a country artist, right? Beyonce is more of a country artist. She's from Houston, Texas.
Yeah, and I feel like that's always been the vibe too. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Bo Burnham or not.
Yes.
The comedian.
Yes.
He has that whole country song.
Yes.
And all the lyrics are writing about hard work.
Little girl in a straw hat or something like that.
Yeah.
Fun fact, his special on Netflix,
yes.
I am technically in because I'm in the front row. So you see me for a split second.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I saw him in Columbus.
That is
and that's where they recorded it. Yep.
Wow.
I was watching it and I'm like, I think this is the special that I saw. And then at the end when they're panning to the audience, I'm like, that's me.
You're like, I'm right there. I'm right there.
That's me.
But he has that entire country song that is poking fun at the fact of so many big country artists who are talking about out in the field with mud and
they
they're writing
don't
it from their private jet.
Yeah, they don't live that lifestyle. And there's also nothing wrong with that.
No, and the point being, why get
does
mad
it matter?
at anybody?
Yeah. I don't fit in one box. I'm y'alternative as hell. I literally listen. I found Josh because I was talking to a guy in a heavy metal band that Josh was producing their music.
Amazing.
That's literally, he was like, how did you find me? I'm like, okay, so this one band that you guys did a music video for and they're extremely what is it? It's death metalcore or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, yeah. I was like, I was hooking up with him at the time and I saw his music video because I thought you guys did a good job, so I just followed you.
That's amazing.
Then a year and a half or 2 years later, I ended up using you.
I love the trickle down effect. That is incredible.
And it was funny, it's just I always joke that I really am y'alternative in human form because I love to do my yeehaw shit, but I also like doing, I really love heavy metal specifically, but I also do love Meg the Stallion, and I like to wear freaking sneakers and have really nice Jordans or freaking Air Force, you know what I mean? It's just, I hate that the world makes you seem like you have to pick one box and then you stay in it, and I'm like, no, I wanted to have really fun hats, I wanted to have really cool shirts, and obviously I want to expand to doing more than that eventually, but I just wanted it to be a brand of just inclusivity and just expressing yourself and just being yourself authentically as you can, because I feel like that's been lost a lot in the world. I feel like everyone's just trying to be this one fit exact like replica, and I just wanted a brand that was different than everything else.
Well, that branch out mentality, the like go against the niche sort of thing, the like own whatever part of you that you want to own, be all the things, right? Be into metal and also be into muddin and whatever. Like that is like why I was also so excited just to talk to you on this show, is because like I just love when people do whatever is interesting to them. So yes, we're starting a cool brand and we had another cool brand, but you also live the farm life, but you're also doing stand up, but you've also written a book, and there's also probably other things that you want to be doing. And like that sort of like lifestyle, that sort of mentality, that sort of like, if it's interesting to you, try it. Like I subscribe to that so heavily.
100%.
And those are the conversations that I love having with people, where it is just like, no, you don't have to
put
down
one box.
Nope, not at all. And because like that's not that it's ever been like a point of contention or anything, but I do think sometimes people have been confused a little bit on like, you know, this show, for example, there are these types of conversations, and a lot of these episodes do kind of, they dip into like a really deep dive into someone's life, and they're kind of almost a therapy session in ways where like they share some real vulnerable things. I can simultaneously have a conversation like this and then go produce my improv comedy show where we're talking about, you know, we're making up a fake interview about the owner of a dildo factory or something. You know, it's like those two things both exist inside of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like both of those entities of like vulgar, stupid comedy over here and heartfelt, emotional conversations. And I'm not going to
pick one.
I'm not just going to pick one. I'm not going to block myself and not allow myself from experiencing all of these different things. Yeah. And all of these different pursuits and avenues like stand-up comedy, improv comedy, creating of any kind, creating, you know, I love horror films. So it's like creating horror shorts and trying to make a feature film, and like all of those things. Like I understand some, you know, business person somewhere could give you the argument of like, well, no, niching
stay
down
in one
and
place,
stay in the thing. And I'm like, I get it. I'm not even saying that's 100% wrong. I'm sure there's parts of that are accurate. But for me and the life that I want to live, I want to experience every single thing that sounds enjoyable to me.
Yes. That's like one thing I think about sometimes, of how if I would have, instead of marketing myself in all of my facets, if I would have just, when that first video blew up, I made my whole channel Snow, I might have made way more money. I might have been less attached, and maybe it would have been better for my mental health of not being as attached and it being like Snow's channel, but I would not have been able to get those same opportunities, and I wouldn't have been able to create at the capacity that I've created, because I have been able to show almost all sides of who I am as a person and everything that I do that I find enjoyment in, and all of the different avenues that I have. Because like I have a lot of things about me, like, and I've been able to use that all, because never in my life, because I always thought I wanted to be a vet, and then I was like, I would love to be a college professor, because I do love teaching people, because there's nothing that makes me happier. I think our education system is very flawed in the sense that it only caters to one specific student, like me, who is able to take in knowledge, retain it well, and then spit it back out at you. But that doesn't define if somebody's intelligent or not. And so I always, through high school and college, I was a tutor. I did SI, which was where I student taught at my college. If you did really well in a hard class, they'd let you teach your own separate little like segment. And that was my favorite thing, was like people being like, that made sense when you said it. And so I've gotten to combine all three of my passions, which is entertaining and doing comedy, but also educating people and being able to bridge that barrier. And then I also get to advocate for agriculture and build this business and build all these different things, because both my parents growing up were small business owners. That's the world I grew up in. And so having the idea of being able to build my own small business was always a cool thing, but then not really finding my niche until then the internet came, and I was like, oh, this is what I can do.
Yeah. Now we touched on this a little bit earlier in sharing some advice, but that was more about like social media, kind of dealing with it and stuff like that. Now, an adjacent question based off of what we just talked about, of the opposite of niching down, right? If you were sharing advice to that person who's like, I kind of want to start a brand, I want to start, doing this thing. is, based off of your experience, is it like, hey, pick your theme and try to stick with it? Or is it like, just go. Don't worry about being polished. Don't worry about just following the trends.
Yeah.
Find what works for you.
Yes. I think that if you look at people who do something like rage bait or have stayed in such a small and distinct niche, they have a very low ceiling. Versus my ceiling, I can just keep breaking through with a different one because I have branded myself as so many different things. If I would have just tried to only make snow content, I would have run out of ideas very early on, and I would have had to try to rebrand and remarket myself. So I think that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have a game plan. You don't have to have a freaking PowerPoint presentation of how you want to create content. Or even not even create content, but even a business or anything else. You just have to start. Because you could start out just being like, I want to do photography, but then after you do a couple weddings, you look at the wedding person, like you look at the coordinator, and you're like, I feel like I could do that. I feel like I would really like doing that, and I liked coordinating my own wedding. Maybe I should dabble in that, and it can just keep expanding from there. You don't have to be like, no, I need to stick to photography because it's what I know. You should always have a safety net. Absolutely. Like in this economy, you do need to make money, unfortunately. But I think you should always also try to have that passion project that makes you excited and fuels yourself of like, I might not even make money from this, but I really freaking enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest thing you feel like if you were to pick out one lesson that you feel like you've learned over your entire journey, what would it be?
Authenticity always wins. It always does. Being yourself, you'll never have an issue because I've never had to go back and rewrite my own history online. I've always been abundantly honest and open with people, and so I've always been able to have that real, genuine connection with the people that follow me. And so I think that portraying myself as a human has made it so much easier for me to continue to navigate the internet space. Because I think a lot of people, once they get some followers, they try to make themselves seem out of touch. And I think that is a really dangerous place to be then because you are still a human. The economy is fragile and you can fall. And you know how hard it is to get your followers to want to support you in any way if you've made it seem like you're a rich bitch? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always been abundantly clear with people that there's been times when I made good money off the internet, but they're very short because I don't bring in millions and millions of views every month because I'm not doing what the algorithm wants. I'm doing what I want to create, even if it doesn't make me as much money. I'm proud of what I put out. And so when my cousin needed to have her, she is not transitioning. She is a lesbian woman who just wants to not have her chest anymore. She's just always been insecure. She wants to have that removal, and I was fully supportive. And insurance covers some, not all. And so she came to me like, I don't know how to fund this. And I was like, well, we could try to crowdfund with my audience. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was nervous at first because I was like, I have 2.5 million followers. People think I'm a rich bitch. People think I have all this money, But there was no hesitation with people. As soon as I posted it, they had her whole surgery paid for in 9 hours.
That's awesome.
And then some. They went over her original goal. And not once did somebody say, well, shouldn't you pay for it? Couldn't you pay? Because I've been abundantly honest with them my entire career of like, yeah, I make enough money to survive, but I didn't have $7,000 sitting in my bank account to be able to pay for her surgery. Because guess what? If I would have, it would have been no question,
Right.
at all.
Yeah. Have you had battles with burnout over all of this stuff?
Yeah.
Especially from a content creation standpoint of trying to make, what has that been like for you?
Sometimes it does because sometimes I can just get overwhelmed either by the internet's response to stuff. I did have, in 2023, I actually was the only time I've ever taken an extended break from the internet. I didn't post for a full week because my cow Snow, who obviously is probably the main character on my channel minus me, she was pregnant, had an all-white heifer. We all fell in love with that heifer. That heifer died for no reason. And that was very hard. And then not shortly after that, I had to also put down Snow's mom, Blue, because she had sustained an injury that was not recovering. And that time on the internet was so overwhelming, and I just got so burned out because so many people were giving me their opinions and input and everything else. And I just was like, I don't even want to create for these people anymore because, they don't understand cattle and livestock. But they're questioning it, and I know that they're coming from a harmless place, but it seems like they're questioning me as a cattle woman.
Yeah.
And also, I was heartbroken when I walked out and saw that calf dead. And so I knew I had to tell people because I had told them about her being alive, and I'm not going to lie to people. But then the overwhelming amount of people who were trying to act as if they were also mourning was very weird for my psyche. Because I'm like, listen, I understand you can be sad. And I really appreciate the people who were supportive of me. But to be commenting that you are physically mourning as well was very weird for me. Because I'm like, this is not real for you. This is real for me. And it felt like almost invalidating me. And so luckily what I did with that time is I set healthy boundaries and implemented new ways that I was going to go about my farm, because it's not that I wanted to be less authentic or tell people less about it. It's that I had to save my own self mentally. Like, I couldn't do it. I had to turn my comments off. And then when I turned my comments off, I had 25,000 DMs. And I was like, God, I need you to be silent. Like, I'm dealing with this as a human, you know? And it was just, that was definitely one of the times I was most burnt out. Because when I came back, I was like, I don't even know how to post. Like, I don't even know what I want to post about. And I think that since that incident, I have found the groove of what works best for me and how I need to navigate the internet. But it was definitely tough.
Yeah, I think that the whole element of burnout has been actively one of the most difficult things for me to traverse in the social media world. Like, you know, because we've talked about here, at least in this conversation, like so many different aspects of dealing with social media, of like random hate and strangers and, you know, niches and all this sort of stuff. But like, for me, like, for as many ideas that I have and as many things as I love to create, there is just something about quote unquote content creation that is so hard for me to do. Like even for this show, like something I'm actively trying to get myself to do is to create more promotional content for this show. Yeah. Now, I love doing this show. I love having these conversations. But I also know from a marketing standpoint, just
you have to push it out there.
Making this conversation happen, posting it out there, and then hoping people show up isn't necessarily going to work.
No.
And so even for me, like, it feels like such a feat that I have to like get the energy going for, to even like pull out my phone and be like, hey guys, on the next episode, I sit down with Lacie Evans. This is what we're doing. This is what we talk about, blah, blah. It's dope. Like, even that act is actively difficult for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And I've never known why.
I mean,
like,
I think about, like, I think it's just one of those things that you just end up, once you finally do it often, it becomes muscle memory. Yeah. Because in the beginning when I was making content, I remember I was constantly having to like think out ideas, and I was having to like try to almost write, like, not scripts, but like think of all the different ideas. And then when I watched this video back, oh my God, I was so awkward, and I just didn't know what I was doing. There was like weird pauses. I wasn't really editing. And now I could bust my phone out and make a reel to post right now. I could just talk for a minute and a half and I could have a reel to post. And when I go out in the field, I just know, because it's something I've done for so long. And so I think that's something that people forget too, is when you start making content, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and that's okay. It's new. It should be scary. It should be daunting. That's what happens when it's something new. But if you just stay consistent, because that's the biggest advice I give anyone, because I was like, well, how did you build your platforms? Consistency. The more you, and obviously like there's a line between posting a lot and posting quality. You got to find where that little apex is for you. For me, I can post 3 quality reels or short form content videos a day on my platforms. Usually 2 on the weekends, but usually I try to post 3 times. And that way it's enough content to where I'm helping my odds of hitting the algorithms and hitting the For You pages, but I'm also making sure that when people find it, it's good content that it would dub a follow, you know? Because a lot of people, there's a lot of things. There's SEOs and there's hashtags and times of days and blah, 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 blah. And all of it, at the end of the day, I think as long as you're providing something people want to watch, they're going to watch it. And so in the 5 years, I have not stressed about figuring out what freaking hashtags are going to work and what words are going to work. We all know clickbait. We all know rage bait. That shit will work. Right. But in the long run, it pisses people off. And that's not building a community. You can have views, but you're not building that community. And that community is essential, because those are the people that are going to follow you to your other avenues. Yeah. Those are the people who come to my comedy shows when they're in their area. Those are the people who are buying from my companies. Those are the people who are going to go follow me on my YouTube or my podcast channels and like consume more content. When you just rage bait, you are putting yourself in such it's a quick cash grab, right? But there's no longevity in it.
No,
you know,
not at all. Well, I will not name and title this episode "Joe Rogan Sucks and So Does Blue Collar Comedy." I guess I'll take that idea off the table.
Except Ron White. Ron White, we think we love you.
We got to go back and watch your stuff to find out.
To be 100%
sure. We're kind of thinking.
I do remember tater salad being a huge bit. They call me tater salad. I remember that being a huge bit, but I do not remember anything else.
That's true. Wasn't his nickname Tater?
Something
that
like
was
that.
Like his thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's not. Who knows?
We don't know yet. Don't quote
we'll
us on that just yet. We'll watch it and then we'll come back with notes.
Lacie, is there anything big we haven't talked about? Anything big in the story that we haven't covered? We were like, dude, we skipped over the fact that I did this one thing, or oh my God, I got to share this part of my life. Like anything major that if you left here today, you're like, oh man, like how did we not get into that?
Machine Gun Kelly knows I exist.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a fun
I made a
one.
really dumb video and he fucking saw it.
That is incredible. Was it like a comment or a like or something that he?
Somebody posted my video on Twitter, and I don't have X because of reasons that I think are abundantly clear. And he liked it.
That's
because
fun.
it was like a video. I was still had my one job, so this was like 4 years ago, and it was this guy goes, "Women can't make machine gun noises," and so I stitched it, and right after that I go, "Watch me take a good thing, fuck it all up in one night," and I just start awfully rapping Machine Gun Kelly's song. And somebody posted it on Twitter, and then he liked it.
That's super good.
Machine Gun Kelly knows I exist.
Absolutely. Well, now my hope is that all these celebrities that know you exist check out this episode, so then they know that I exist.
That is a wild thing. Like it is. Like sometimes I'll look at my somebody will be like, "Did you know this person follows you?" And I'm like,
"That's so
why?"
Fun. That's so fun.
Like Monique Coleman, who was in High School Musical franchise, follows me, and I'm like, what is going on?
I love that.
What is happening?
So we've added the Machine Gun Kelly to the list of things we've talked about.
Also Theo Vaughn.
That's a fun one.
He commented on one of my snow videos.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I feel like you and Theo Vaughn hanging out and doing something would be incredible.
love to be on his podcast so fucking bad. You don't understand.
Oh my God. Incredible. That would be good.
I love his sense of humor. I think he's so interesting. And I just it was funny. I actually used him as a big point because I was like, a professional comedian commented on this video, and guess what he didn't comment on? My body. Why? Because he's a professional comedian.
Right. Yep.
So I was like.
So of all the list of things that we have talked about, right? I've expressed my excitement for like, oh my God, I love talking to anybody who does multiple different things. We've got the clothing lines and the brands. Yeah. Stand-up comedy, the book, all this sort of stuff. I'm also a big bucket list person. I've used that term a couple of different times in this episode. I'm big on those like life goals, big or small, right?
Yeah.
If I were to ask you what are other things on your bucket list or other goals you'd like to accomplish, more things you want to add to that list, does anything come to mind?
I want to try to do acting. I'd love to be in a movie.
Ooh, yeah.
Or even just like special guest on do like a special night on SNL.
Yes, I love that.
I think that would be really funny because I was a theater kid a little bit. Okay. I did musicals when I was in high school. Gotcha. Well, technically middle school and high school. And I always have enjoyed that side. So yeah, doing something bigger like that would be really cool.
Well, it might not be huge, but you are friends with a group of filmmakers now who often make short films.
They kind of made a short film about me.
This is true. This is true.
I kind of have a 5.5 minute video where I got to be the star.
Yes. And, and we are all actively right now, we've been making shorts and been, planning some feature films and stuff like that, but we're about to try and kick that into a higher gear of doing that a little bit more often. So it won't be huge. But
I'm down.
If you want to hang out and act in some stuff, you got a whole group of friends that are ready to do it.
And that's the whole fact is like starting it because I've acted in a very tiny, small school scale of a musical. For me, it's like I think I could do okay, but I also have little to no experience. So I would definitely it's not like I'm going to get a call from Adam Sandler tomorrow because he would be my dream producer. Adam Sandler, like his movies, if I could be in an Adam, oh my God, I'd freaking die. Now, or actually, this is another very random one, but I just thought of it. I would love to be on Ridiculousness because I have watched Rob Dyrdek since I was literally a child.
Yes.
I watched Robin Big. I watched Fantasy Factory. My dog is named Drama because of his cousin.
I think we might be on the verge of becoming best friends. I'm pretty sure.
He's also from Ohio. That's so cool.
There is so much within that world that has, given me all the inspiration, all the. Have you mentioned this before to Josh?
No, I actually didn't.
So, Drama. Have you ever listened to his podcast?
No.
Or, I don't know if you're a podcast listener. Or
I
not. I don't know.
only
if you're,
have like two. Like I love a podcast, but with my ADHD, I'm so bad at only hyperfixating on one at a time. So right now, it's a random one with two girly pops.
If you ever want to add another one to your list to check it out, Drama had his own podcast. He hasn't done it for a few years.
Yeah.
Which I'm very sad about.
Drama, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You post about golfing every day. I need you to podcast.
Just
once.
whip out a mic again, for the love of God.
Please.
You don't, nothing crazy. Buy one of those little clip-on Rode mics.
Give me one a quarter. I'll take 4 a year. Like, it's fine. But I say all that because, and this is a whole other conversation, probably for a different time, but like, his podcast is heavily instrumental in my career years ago, even continuing.
Gotcha.
Because I was at a place of utter defeat. Josh was, also there because he and I have worked together for a decade. We were done. We were going to quit. We were absolutely, it was just like, there's
Throw in the towel, essentially.
Like, this is not going to work. We'll just do this for fun sometimes. And I truly can directly accredit Drama's podcast. It's called Short Story Long. And honestly, it is the direct inspiration for this show. Everything that we just did is his show, right?
Gotcha.
He sits down with successful people that do all these different things, interesting things, and he talks to them about their story of how they got there.
Yeah.
But I can directly relate me kind of refinding the spark from listening to so many of his episodes, because it wasn't just, oh, this person talked about being successful, I'm going to go do business.
They talk about the places where they fuck up.
Yes, and they talk about what mindset really means and what really doing the work really means and how to pick yourself back up, how to, all of that sort of stuff literally was like, oh, wait, I'm learning a different way to think right now. I'm learning what a positive mindset actually means. I'm learning what it truly means to put in the work and make an effort into this stuff. And literally started listening to that show, and we got our shit together and like turned. And now we're not like rolling in it by any means. Things are still fucking weird and hard. But like that moment years ago, back in like
was
2018,
a pivotal moment.
Hugely pivotal.
Yeah.
And so, I have this like odd connection to Drama that he has no idea
about. Yeah.
He's like a bucket list guest for me on this show, because if I got to sit down and be like, all right, I know your story, but let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it again for the other people who don't obsess over you.
And just so I can tell you, even just, hey, sit down with me for 5 minutes so I can just say thanks.
Yeah, no
that
shit.
That would be good. So,
yeah. I will say one thing that actually just happened to me recently, that if there was any other piece of advice I could give to people, is comparison really is the thief of joy. The reason why I bring this up is because I've made amazing connections with other influencers, content creators in the space. And there was one that there's a lot of them that I will talk to on a very like loose terms, like we'll check in every now and then. So I'm not like talking to them constantly, but I follow up with them. I follow them on social media, so I see their stuff. And I remember there being this one specific guy who we've been friends for, I think we first became friends in 2021. We were both really starting out. So we've been friends a while on the internet, and I've watched him blossom, and it's really cool. And I feel like I've watched him do all these cool things and snag all these insane brand deals. And I just remember thinking constantly, I'm just like, man, he's made it. Like, he's doing so good. Like, look at all this shit he's doing. Like, I bet he's making all this money, and he's got all these brand deals lined up, and he's got all these different avenues. And we had a catch-up call the other day. And he's like, so what's going on? And I tell him about my business, and I tell him about my book, and I tell him about everything, stand up, boom, bam, 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 and I'm just rambling on. And I'm like, so like, please tell me with you. And he's like, I'm making content, and that's it right now. And I remember in that moment, obviously this is not a dig at him in any capacity, because I would never, like, he quite literally has a brand deal with fucking Ford. Like, bro's doing good. He's doing all right. But I remember him just being like just in that moment realizing that social media is fake. And there's a lot of people who, and I'm not saying he does this, because it's not like he's ever like flexing like some influencers do. But that's where I've compared, because I'm like, am I not making as much money as these fucking influencers? No, I think that they're just lying. Like, I think a lot of them are lying.
Right.
But just don't compare yourself, because it's like, I've spent this whole time thinking that, oh my God, I could never compare. And then I'm like, no, I have a lot of cool shit coming out that I just need to focus on. I don't need to worry about what other people are doing, because they're doing good in their own right, and their doing good is different than my doing good. Yeah. But then I just sit there and I talk, and I'm like, I know I do, because I think it's hard to not be hard on yourself and want to do well and do good. And I'm not trying to make millions and millions of dollars. I'm just trying to be sustainable and build a house in this goddamn economy. Yeah. And so it's hard to not be down on yourself of like, look at this person getting in all these views, or look at this person going on these brand trips. And I'm like, I wouldn't even want to do that though. You think my ass would be on a Tarte brand deal? Like, shit, do you think I need to be in fucking Costa Rica with those hot bitches being like, get some Shape Tape? Fuck no. Like, that's not me.
Yep, that was one of my biggest things is, you know, I used to be years ago pretty bad at comparing myself all the time. Not to say that I never do that.
No,
of course
I
I do that.
too, yeah.
Still do it, you know, day to day, but I got a better handle on it.
Yes.
But that was my biggest thing that I learned about comparison years ago is I had to remind myself, like, slow down and look at what you're comparing to, what that person has that you think you want. Ask yourself, do you actually want that?
Yeah.
Would you want to do that? And I was like, wait, no.
Because a lot of those brand deals now make it to where certain people can't do and say certain things. Yeah, I might not have brands want to work with me, but I also get to say, fuck men and fuck the patriarchy and fuck that orange guy that's in office.
Yep.
And I don't have to worry about anybody being like, hey, so
that's not good for the brand.
That's not good. I don't give a fuck.
Yep.
It's good for my brand.
Yep, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can say that. I can say that, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to censor myself. I don't have to shape myself into something different. And so it sucks because I don't make as money as these other bitches. But that's why I'm like, I'm putting work into, I put work into making that a good ass book. I really do believe anybody who reads that book will enjoy it, and it'll be worth the money that they paid for.
Is it out, or has it?
It won't.
When will
No.
it be dropped?
It will be. I think they said September 2nd.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
around then,
So we
the
got-
fall.
we got some
time.
time. Okay.
Yeah, because I have to finalize and finish my author review, and then I think it goes through a couple more editors just for like spell check bullshit, and then they'll start producing the book.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like actually like, you know,
Yeah.
putting it together so it's physical.
Yeah. That's gonna be such a cool moment.
It wild. When I went into Barnes and Noble today to buy books, I was like, my book's gonna be in here,
That's so amazing.
and I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like, shut up.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
how many, but I have a book deal where it's going to be
But the fact, like, that I look at that so much, like, when I talk about, like, the bucket list thing, right? Like, my, like, checklist for is this successfully the goal achieved or not, like, looking at that is just such almost a low bar in a positive way. Like, so, for example, like, someone could sit and be like, well, I got a book in Barnes & Noble, but they only took, 5 each of them, and they're not going to sell.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I'm a published fucking author, bitch.
There's a book, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a random goal of mine is, like, I want to design and sell a skate deck in a skate shop, right?
Yeah.
For me, literally, if I designed one deck, had it physically produced, one of them went into a skate shop, and someone bought it, I'd be like, accomplished.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Did Josh
right?
tell you about him eating shit when he was at the skate park for the
I
Cowgirl
can't
Hustle
remember
shoot?
if he did. I remember seeing the BTS footage of him skating
We
around.
we were shitting. Drop in, Josh. Drop in. And he finally was doing it, and he was doing really good. And then he just ate
That's
shit.
incredible. That is amazing.
I was like, oh, this poor guy.
That's what
Because
happens.
because I can't skate, so I was like, somebody's got to shred.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that was the
And
thing
you
is
can
like
do it.
I loved Rob Diedrich, had no fucking desire, like I just was not a skateboard person.
Yep.
But I fucking loved him on
Oh,
Robin
yeah.
Big, and I loved the
100%.
Fantasy Factory, and so yeah, if I could be a guest on Ridiculousness, that would be insane.
Man, well, now I can't wait for one day I'm going to see a clip from that episode, and you're going to be sitting on the couch with
I'd
them.
be shitting a
talking
brick.
about it, and I cannot wait for that day
Listen,
because
Rob,
I think it's going to happen.
keep the show going long enough for me to get there.
You know what? Here's the thing. That show's going to last longer than probably
I know.
human beings. At
Well,
this
I'm just
point.
like, at this point, I'm like, hey, don't get tired of it.
Yeah, which is surprising that he hasn't.
I know, that's why I'm scared, because I'm like, hey, keep it going. I want to get on there.
Honestly, at this rate, I just sat and heard your story. I think you should just send a couple DMs because I think there might be
I got
a
these
chance.
magical fingers. Sometimes it works.
Yeah,
Just
I think-
message Rob Diedrich and be like, hey, will you put me on Ridiculousness?
Check me out. This is what I do. I would love to be a part. Like I
Tori
literally
Deal
think-
was just on it.
There you go.
The girl that is put on on my book, she was just. I need to. Well, I don't want to DM her though and make it seem like I'm using her for her connections though. That's the scary part about this world is like
of course.
she's somebody who I would genuinely like want to hang out with and I look up to as an inspiration. Like I would never
Yeah.
want her to think like I'm only using her as a connection.
And that's, I mean, yeah, that's the hard thing about asking any sort of favor.
Yeah.
Even like I'm nowhere near the level that you're operating at, and I'm still like, oh God, if I ask this person for a favor, I just feel so terrible.
Me
So,
too.
like, of course, like I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I just sat and heard your story.
Shoot my shot.
I'm hearing what
Rob
happens
Diedrich.
when you
I
send
need to
DMs.
Hello.
Send it to that. Send it to
Adam
Stilo.
Sandler.
Adam Sandler. I'm telling you, I think you should just be sending.
Just message Adam Sandler like, hey, bud.
Hey, dude.
I call myself the Cowgirl Adam Sandler because I dress like I don't give a damn.
That's
so I'm going to be
incredible.
like, Adam, you got to call him like Mr. Sandler.
Mr. Sandler.
Do you have a movie where you could fit in a dumbass like me? I will work so hard, and I'll work for pennies on the dollar. I promise.
You know what? Let me be a positive bit of reinforcement here. I think you should just toss some more DMs out there because it sounds like it works.
Adam.
Final question, and we'll get out of here.
Got it.
We will wrap this up and call it a podcast. I end all of these episodes with the exact same question. So now it's your turn. So right now, we've talked about so many different parts of your story, dropped little tidbits of advice here and there, all this sort of stuff. But right now, I want you to pretend that everybody in the world is listening to you speak right now.
Okay.
Just everybody everywhere. You got access to them somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're listening to you speak. You have a live mic attached to all of them, and you get this moment right now to share one thing with all of them. What's the final thing you want to leave with everybody? What do you really want them to hear more than anything?
I would love every single person on the planet to know that it does not harm you in any way to allow another human to completely exist exactly how they want to be. And there's no reason for you to judge, condemn, or decide for everybody. Because in my opinion, every single human on this planet is valid, and they have every right to make every decision for themselves and their own damn body.
I love it. I love it.
Not business related, just very passionate with the current times.
Nope. I absolutely love that. It doesn't have to be business related whatsoever.
Because I just wish everyone could just really put that in perspective as how they identify change the way you pay your taxes.
Literally just the amount of things that keep happening that I'm like,
what does it matter? It doesn't
no
affect
one.
you. It's not being shoved down your throat. It's just people are finally getting represented.
It literally is just like, this does not affect.
There's so many worse things.
Just let people exist.
Just let them live.
Let them live.
You don't have to agree with it, and it doesn't have to make sense to you.
And
Listen,
guess what? It's not your life.
You could have told me at the beginning of this that you identify as a lampshade, and I would have respected you the same. Would I have maybe thought that's a little goofy? I would have.
Right.
But I also would be like, I don't care.
That affects my life. None?
No.
Who cares?
We're still having
Whatever.
this freaking podcast,
You're doing
so
your thing.
let's
There
go,
you
lampshade. Let's get into it.
What an
Like,
incredible- yes.
I don't get it.
It is going to forever be strange to me
Yes.
as to why anybody gets so wrapped up in any of the rest of that stuff. Just like earlier, when I sit and say, hey, I don't hate him, but I stopped being a fan of Joe Rogan, it doesn't matter to the ultimate
He's
fan
still
of Joe
making
Rogan.
millions of dollars.
He's still doing it. It
The
doesn't
world's
matter.
still turning, too.
Yes, you can still be a fan. I don't have to be as big of a fan. It just doesn't matter.
Everyone could just take such a good, everyone would feel so much better if they just stopped giving so much of a shit about other people.
Mm-hmm.
If you took that much energy and put it towards your own self, you'd be in a way different place.
Oh my goodness, yes. Just slow down.
Because that's
do
what I'm saying. I see some shit online where I'm like, what in the fuck? And I'm like, you know what? Do you though? And then I scroll.
100%. 100%.
Am I still like, hey, that was kind of wild? Maybe.
For sure.
But I
Yes.
didn't need to. I didn't waste any more time on it.
Nope. I'm gonna just keep living my life, I think. They're gonna keep living
and it's gonna be the
theirs,
exact same.
Yeah. There we go. I didn't have to involve myself in something
Look
else.
at it's fucking wild.
Lacie, where can people find you in any of these endeavors around social?
I am at Lacie M. Evans pretty much everywhere, but it is Lacie. You search Lacie Evans with an EY, you're gonna find the wrestler. That ain't me.
And you know what's hilarious? I am a gigantic wrestling fan. And when Josh first shared your stuff with me,
You looked me up.
I looked at it and I was like, Lacie Evans. I was like, why does that sound so familiar?
There's a wrestler.
And then, yes, once I saw you, and then I was like, oh, Lacie. I was like, that was a pro wrestler. I'm like, that's why that name is etched in my brain.
She is Lacie EY.
Yes.
I am Lacie IE.
Yes.
But if you search Lacie M. Evans, you should find me pretty much anywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, if we still have it. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then
Lacie,
Cowgirl Hustle when it launches.
Yes, 100%. I cannot thank you enough again.
Absolutely.
For being down to make a podcast, to travel up here. You made a day of it, which is great.
I did.
I love that.
I got me some Wingstop
Yes.
I got
perfect,
me some
perfect.
books that I'm going to make myself read.
I am so happy that we've gotten to meet also.
Yes.
You've met most of my video crew, and
Yeah,
I
I know.
wasn't there for them, and now we have sat down. This is way more of like, I love meeting people like this. Like, I love a good video
I don't know.
set,
You would
but,
have
like,
also probably loved meeting me at 7 a.m. getting ready to feed cows.
That's fair. And I did see all the cute cats running around, so
Yes.
that would have been a joy as well.
Yes,
So,
that was very
that
fun.
would've
They,
been
they
a-
were like, this is way different than any set we've ever been on.
Yeah, yes, 100%. a little bit different than what we're normally used to. But yeah, I am stoked that we got to meet in this setting, in this
absolutely.
nice little controlled environment of us just getting to sit and talk about your life, because that is when I love, or how I love to get to know people best is, hey, do you want to sit?
That
for
is a
like-
hell of a way. I feel like you know my entire life story now.
I mean, I have said it
You
a billion times. I'll say it a million more on the show. Having a podcast is a cheat code to making friends.
Period,
And
actually.
I literally am like, yeah, sure, I'm going to promote it, and we're going to make the content that we talk about and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a brand that I'm building,
But
but
it's fun.
ultimately it is literally because I love doing this.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a show and podcasts weren't a thing, I probably would have been like, Lacie, can we get coffee at some point?
Yeah.
And can we talk for 2 hours about your life? Because everyone's lives are just interesting to me.
Oh,
and I
for
just
sure.
love sitting and having the talk. So, again, thank you so much.
Absolutely.